So we can take a second to focus on that before our speaker joins. And I hope everyone's had a lovely day so far. Mine has had tech issues.
Salut Antoine.
Does anyone have questions about the prompts that I brought up yesterday? It's not so much about the who, what, where of you. It's about your character and moving through it and trying to distill it down, because each of you talked about it in detail on Monday when you presented your projects, but this is more so about the one-liner that you can use to describe it in a very succinct way. So I know we're waiting for a few more minutes at 9:10. Well, 9:10 on my side, 3:10, I guess, for you guys, for our first speaker. But is there anyone that wants to share a bit of what they wrote out, or is everyone still writing? I'm sure several of you effortlessly put this stuff down.
I'm sorry, maybe I arrived a bit late. I didn't understand we were supposed to do something. I thought we were waiting for someone, and I didn't get the prompt for this
Can you
intro. So,
can you
can
see
you
my
just
shared screen?
yeah.
Okay, so where it says for day 3, so every morning on the schedule, or I keep saying morning, but at the beginning of every day's schedule, we have a writing prompt. So every start of these sessions, you're supposed to be reflecting on this work. Whether you're writing it down directly, it's supposed to be helping you with mood boarding and concepting and making your ideas all more succinct. So as we did yesterday and today, well, excuse me, as we did yesterday, not Monday, but as we did Tuesday and today, Wednesday, we have these writing prompts that we'll have every day of the week. And we're supposed to be working on those. And I brought this up yesterday in preparation for today about who, what, where, when, why, and how, which are how you figure out the exact story that you're telling and how you communicate it to your audience.
All right, sorry. I thought it was just the first slide for the topic of today, so I didn't get that, but we'll get to it. Sorry.
It's okay. And if anyone does have questions about the schedule or what's up next, it's all detailed in the document that we sent out last week. So did anyone else have confusion about that? Okay. Does anyone want to talk about it a bit? Again, several of you have outlined this to some degree in your presentations previously. And we can look into that if anyone has questions about how to better define the who or the what or the where. When you're also thinking about storytelling, as came up yesterday, think about the marketing of the story too. So how do you get people to understand what you're doing in a very quick, but very exciting or interesting way? Everyone is so shy. Out of curiosity, do any of you know each other previously before this program? Outside of collaborators, of course, but I mean from separate teams.
I think not.
Yes.
Yes, we knew each other with Isabel.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
And
How
Leon.
did you two meet?
Actually, we know Leah as well. It's just a group of people working in new media in Paris and
Okay.
going to the same events and sharing a lot of stuff
Cool.
and drinks.
I figured that some of you would know each other. What is the Parisian XR community like specifically in that city? I know there's a ton of production studios.
I don't know, Benjamin, do you want to set the stage?
Sorry, my connection is pretty bad. Can you repeat? Sorry.
Yeah, no. So it's just about describing the community of XR people in Paris.
Ooh, all right. I don't know if I'm the best person to do that, but okay.
Well, we have a lot of producers, a couple of very good studios who did major pieces, very good projects, and we are very lucky because we have some events like in Paris. You know, we have the New Images Festival every year, so we get to see each other on a regular basis with this. Yeah,
I was very excited. I was a speaker this year at New Images, but I couldn't go because COVID. And they had some beautiful reception in the cathedral, and I was over in my apartment, and I'm like, come on, this is the worst. But yeah, it sounds incredible. I've not directly worked in Paris, but I've worked with a lot of Paris-based people and with several French-based production companies. And it's unbelievable the work that's either getting purchased and distributed there, getting created there. France is just a powerhouse of XR and creative tech. I feel like French creators dominate several categories within US film festivals, by the way. So you're coming with a reputation for being good at what you all do.
That's something.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's something, even if I feel like there is a bit some big companies that are quite new, but like Atlas 5 or you know, the big fishes that wins every year in Sundance and blah blah blah. Yeah, they're super good.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a good reputation just being French and coming to New York, I guess.
Yeah, I would say as an American working in emerging and creative technology myself, the reputation of the French overall are that their government cares, which is great because as you've heard from several American speakers or US based speakers, it's definitely not the same here. That those government funds just do not exist. But what we do have is our huge tech companies on the flip side. So in some ways that's good, in some ways it's harder. Excuse me, hiccup. But that being said, the other thing about French creatives, really interesting stories, a lot of stories that are told without dialogue, which is fascinating. I think it makes a lot of sense to make it relatable and make it understandable, and that you're not relying so heavily on language. And a lot of stories that are not necessarily French in nature, not inherently French, but they're taking a lot of interesting cross-cultural references and then being produced by French teams. One of my favorite projects, I don't know if it was originally a French writer, but it was created by a French team, was called Jack. Does anyone know that? Isabel, have you seen it?
Yes, it's Matthias Schellbourg team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he's great. He's wonderful. I love seeing him at festivals. So yeah, I think it was he who directed it. I'm not sure again if I think he might have worked with an American writer because it's an American story, if I'm correct. But it's Jack and the Beanstalk. Do you know the story? Yeah, the children's story. It was incredible. I don't know if it will ever be done again, so I'm gonna spoil it. But it was my first experience with live theater and immersive technology, and it was at Tribeca Film Festival in 2018. And you go into this kind of like, do you know what the bayou is? Like the Louisiana bayou in the US. So you're in this space and you're a frog and you're interacting with real tracked actors in mixed reality. And it was unbelievable. And there was like a whole haptic set and it took a huge team to produce. And it was just one of the most polished, beautiful experiences. Really, really, really cool. I'm gonna ping Nicole again.
Yeah, it's funny. I think there is a big difference between a game and a XR experience. When you are talking about XR, you are always talking about festivals. Yeah, I feel it's a way, a necessary way to publish XR experience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's true or.
In what way? I was just answering. Nicole is running a second late, so could you please repeat that? I was having to respond to her.
Don't worry. I was asking.
I'm actually here. I am actually here.
Oh.
I've been here for about 5 minutes.
Oh my God, I didn't even see you. I got so concerned. Okay, great. I got very, very nervous. Great, continue. All right, what were you saying, Maddie? And
I didn't want to interrupt the great story, so
no,
I was just
I was
here.
like, oh my God, where is she? I didn't even see you. All right, we're all good. You're alive. We're fantastic. Continue what you were saying, Mani. I'm so sorry.
It was just a question because you are talking a lot about festivals for XR.
Mhm.
For XR experience, and I feel it's a very necessary way for publishing XR experience, which is not the case in the game industry. I don't know if.
No, and actually, perhaps in Nicole's talk, she could talk a bit about this. Nicole is also someone that works between XR and gaming. But in terms of publishing and getting your games into the hands of people in the US, there are some game-specific festivals. Like there's a festival called Indiecade that happens in California that's all about indie gaming. That's it. It's a multi-day festival focused on indie gamers. There's conferences like GDC, the Game Developers Conference, and it's humongous, possibly one of the largest game conferences in the world. And that's for AAA games as well as indie games. And then there are all these pop-up events that people will make around that, and publishing deals happen there. And in some cases, people have traditionally walked around with their game at these festivals, get investors to play it, and then it gets purchased. Those are crazy stories, though, but they have happened. So there are conferences and festivals just about gaming here. I'm sure that they are as well in France. But it is a different, and it's a slightly harder road. Something that was brought up, and this will be my last point on gaming specifically, something that was brought up by one of our past speakers was that you have to make a prototype, get that in front of a publisher, and then if they sign you, knowing that it's a work in progress, they can give you an advance to bring on a team or continue your project. And that's the story of many independent game developers, where you make something that's good enough, get it in front of someone, and then hopefully it gets in the process of distribution and a deeper production. And with that, I pass it on to Nicole. I'm so sorry I didn't see you. Oh my God, I'm so happy you're here. I was wrong. No, I'm really thrilled that you're here. And because we're running a few minutes late in getting your talk kicked off, we can go a little bit of time over. But yes, Nicole is someone I've known now for several years. We've run in the same circles in XR specifically. But as I said, she also works in gaming and is quite the pioneer, has done things as the first person ever within the industry, which is unbelievable. And so amazing to be able to glean her knowledge. And additionally, you've just always been so warm and so inspiring and so excited to help people, especially when I was very new to the industry, telling me what was going on. And we're both actively part of different private women's groups within the United States, just focused on women working in technology and supporting each other. So all you, Nicole, I'm going to stop sharing because I think you have a presentation, correct?
I do.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to stop my screen.
I do. Well, great. Good morning. It's great to see everyone. And
Hi.
or actually, I'm sorry. It should be good afternoon or good evening, I think, right?
I keep doing it too.
Yeah, I'm the one that's like, okay, do I sleep through my alarm? Please don't let me sleep through my alarm. No, but yeah. So wonderful to be here. Thank you all for coming. I have some slides, and as we go through, if you have any questions about any of those projects, hopefully I'll finish early, and then we can have some Q&A about anything that I'm presenting. It'll be a mix of my consulting work for game companies, established game companies, since I've worked with just about all of the major publishers. And then I'm also showing some of my independent work, like you see behind me. So that's just as a little bit of context. And then the stuff that I can talk a lot more about the stuff that I've created in shop here. So some of the other stuff can be NDA'd. So can people see this screen okay? Yep, okay. And no black spots or anything that isn't working really well?
No, it's good.
Okay, great, yeah. On the Mac, it tends to be a little bit better. So let me just move all of your lovely faces to the side and let's go. Okay, so welcome to the metaverse, or as I'd like to say, why I love my day job. So there's sort of three things for those of you who haven't met or seen me online. is that essentially I designed the first iPhone game. And I was the first person to measure emotion on people's faces. So the first person to use facial action coding as an actual measure of experiences for pretty much any product, but definitely especially for games. And then I'm now working in the XR space, working on my consulting for companies and gaming and non-gaming companies, as well as doing my own work. And you'll hear about Follow the White Rabbit, which is behind me over here. And in terms of my background, I came into games through CogSci from Stanford. I took computer programming, some filmmaking, and psychology, and kind of used that as my basis for going into what I like to call interactive entertainment, interactive media. And I'm a globally recognized expert on emotion in games. I use that facial action coding to create what we call the 4 keys to fun. You can look it up online. There's a free white paper. You can download this model. It's used by millions of leading developers around the world, everywhere from Disney to Ubisoft, from The Sims to Assassin's Creed to Star Wars. I've been on national media as well, so like with Samantha Bee, and I've actually advised the White House, and I've done workshops for the government of Singapore on how to use game mechanics to improve our world. The model's been presented actually at TED. This is IBM presenting it at the event, and there are some original white papers on using game mechanics to involve citizens, more actively, I guess. If you think about it, what the 4 keys did is this is a really nice example with The Sims 2. You can see that it's clearly baked into, essentially the 4 keys is baked into the AI for The Sims. So you can see the wants, fears, and needs sort of model that was actually baked into like the core mechanic loop for the second version of The Sims. And it's been used actually throughout, before the 4 keys. People thought that emotion, that the games might have the emotion of the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat, but not a whole lot else. And so this research that I did provided scientific proof that actually a lot more stuff is going on. People play games for 4 reasons. They play for the easy novelty, the easy fun of just the joy of controls. They play for challenge, mastery. They play for spending time with their friends, social interaction, and they play for value and meaning. Sometimes we call this badges and points, but really that's extrinsic reward. There's a lot of things people are playing because to change themselves or to change the world. Now, this was released in 2004, so it's been quite some time, and you can see the influence in the explosion of different kinds of game mechanics and different kinds of games. This talk, we wanted to go a little bit about my career, and again, I'm happy to answer specific questions that you might have. But I think if I could summarize what my career journey has been, is it's really to try and invent something new with every project. Design, I believe, is strategic, and I wanted to develop myself as a creator, and I also wanted to develop my company. So as we go through like games, I worked on 3 in the Myst series. So for example, this is Myst 2, and it was 5 CD-ROMs in 3 markets in 13 days. We had to localize the product, so it had a simultaneous release. Actually, I do have a French version back there anyway, if anyone wants to see the box, because we did do the French version. And what I did there is I used that as a challenge for myself and my team to design a really tight production process. So I took this challenge and said, okay, I'm going to build this part of my studio, which is like we're really going to be good at producing things in a very quick manner. And that was a lot of content. For The Sims, I really focused on emotion and innovation and play. We generated something like 364 ideas in an hour, which was probably a world record, with the team on The Sims. And with Diner Dash, the Diner Dash franchise, we worked on 40 different products in that franchise, which got them to billions of 6 billion downloads or something like that. It's just an insane thing. But going from a single game, so I looked a lot at how do players respond to games, and then creating mechanics that way. probably did what one of the first multiplayer game studies ever. This was going a little bit backwards in time for Wheel of Fortune, Jeopardy, and Trivial Pursuit and dating game. This was early Flash games, so there was no video possible over the internet, but you could have these cartoon characters. And in order to be a multiplayer game, and this was again really early. This was you were doing text MUDs, and maybe you had 3D graphics were really challenging online. So I actually ran several people simultaneously, and then took that video and put it into one control room so that you could actually see the player reactions happening in real time. And more recently, we did Dominations, which is a mobile game where we did qualitative and quantitative research together. And we worked a lot with Star Wars. We did about 12 titles with Star Wars in the Star Wars universe with LucasArts, so that what could we do to help players feel the Force? Whether it was waving a Wiimote or just clicking a mouse, how could you feel really that way? And with Design Home, we did a thing about like how Design Home is interesting. It's a very, very popular app, at least in the US, and it's not quite a game. It's a redecorating game, so you get to play Martha Stewart, if you will. More in depth than that. And how could you make that innovative, and how could you make that more fun? So how I did this is, here's just a couple of things so as you can see, I've got a couple of themes going in my career. I've got, the production, like with Ribbon, with Mist. We've got able to produce stuff, but, and also able to research stuff, right? So we've got research and we have design. So for research, I took a lot of my background in psychology and applied it to understanding humans. So how could we measure emotion the best? Could we do a survey? Do we ask people questions, or do we just have it right on their faces? Do we go home? So this is on the far right. There's the Pleo, which is a robotic dinosaur, and this is actually in the lab where I am right now. But we actually followed people home, and then had them. They checked the Pleo robot out for 2 weeks, and I would go in homes and do a lot of visiting. And I did a lot of this for Origin as well, like what could we do for different persona work. So again, I was taking how could I would always ask the question first. This is the question we need to ask, and then that my client needs, and then what is the data we need to collect, and then I design the study. A lot of companies would just say, oh, we just need a focus group. And that's not necessarily the best methodology. Rarely it's the best methodology, actually, in my opinion, for critical questions on how to make your game more fun, or how to improve the product market fit in the used to use VC Silicon Valley language. I also do designs workshops is another way I interact with clients. So this, I'm working with the government of Singapore on the far left. We created everything from simulating a game that simulates how to do a budget, called Sense and Sensibility, that won a number of awards, to modeling the life of a career as a civil servant, to gamifying recycling. And we did, way before design thinking ever happened, we would do these workshops based on some of the stuff that I experienced at Stanford with what do you call it, mechanical engineering core, stuff like that. I've also worked with a lot of emerging products, technology. And so again, it's that product market fit, it's that technology, that game, and then this new tech. So we did a lot of work with Indiana Jones on the Wii, the first Star Wars on the Wii, which is the way of the controller was the virtual reality for $250, back in the day. I've talked a bit about Pleo. We worked a lot on the emotion model for what was going to happen to the next robot that this company was going to put out. And we did a lot of work with Leapfrog, like with character recognition and these kinds of things. And again, it often will come to us as a tech demo, and then we have to figure out what kind of use case, what kind of things that people do to make this fun. And along the bottom we have here, this was a iFluence with Jim Margraff, and it was a hands-free AR and VR operating system used just with your eyes. So no hands, no controllers, just with your eyes. You could browse, run a calculator, browse your photos, order from Amazon, all with just using your eyes, and it wasn't a gaze cursor. So pretty cool tech. Google bought them a couple years ago, and this was the Fly Pen, which is a talking pen. So games on a talking pen, crazy kind of stuff. This one here is the first iPhone game that you could really play, the first true iPhone game. And this is the version that shipped. We launched on the iPad. It's a full color version. And then on the far right, I'm experimenting with, this is a Perceptron neuron that I'm wearing. So 26 body tracker points that I did. I was the first person to do a public demo for AltSpace where they had an articulated avatar. They've simplified things now where it's, you're just using controller and the mask. But this actually, I had fingers and toes actually tracked. So I was a full digital puppet way before the Microsoft acquisition. I forget the actual date. But that's like, how can we take the tech? Tech is cool, but then how do you make it into a product? For AltSpace, it was like, okay, great. I'm in here. I'm fully articulated as an avatar, which is awesome. But then I'm doing a PowerPoint. That doesn't make sense, right? It's not really XR in that case. My work on the 4 Keys to Fun has led to, gamified design. You probably know it as gamification. Here are 2 examples from clients. On the left is the long game. It's a savings. It's gamifying savings, so to help encourage young people to save, or early career people to save money. And it's just gamifying that journey. And then Biz is a startup client that would be your pocket CFO. And you could get these, kind of juicy charts and diagrams for folks that are a little bit afraid or not super experienced with finances, and just make it more fun to engage. So games don't have to be, games. And I've got experience, doing both. So on the last little bit here is I want to show some of my vision and some of the work that I've done over the years of the original content. And some process as well. So my vision throughout my entire career is all about unlocking human potential through play. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll hear me talking a lot now about humanizing the metaverse, making the metaverse people-centric. And that's been, humanizing tech has been a core value. And I've seen that there is a potential. I was inspired by Howard Rheingold's book, where it's design, where tools, basically computers are tools for thought. And I think that so all the tech that I touch, I really try to make it good for people. So with the first iPhone game, I did this in 2007. I've got some cool photos. So this is like a week after the iPhone came out. It did not look like this. This is the later version. But essentially, I wanted to create a game to plant 1 million trees. So you guide this tadpole named Flip to eat carbon and stuff out of the air. And so I don't know if you can see, but basically you just rotate the phone to play. And so the little character jumps to the bottom side. And then there are things that fall. And you have to eat the carbon out of the air, gather seeds, and then you have to avoid the blight. And it's and rescue Shady Glen. I didn't push the special button. Can you see this as an animation?
Yes.
Can you hear it?
No.
No.
I'll stop sharing for a moment, and I will share again, pressing the special button. I always forget the special button at the bottom.
If you
Share
want,
sound.
we had a speaker yesterday who just sent me the link, and then I can just either drop that in the chat or I could try. It's up to you.
Okay, yeah, let's try. That. That's the mechanic, and I can talk about like how that is. So here you have to grab the good stuff and avoid the icky blight. And then the more seeds you gather, the more points you're earning. And then with those points, we actually then plant trees. And then you just grab your points, and then you get to plant your trees. So that's the so that's Tilt World, and this is the story of getting started. So this is me at iPhone Dev Camp 2007. I don't know if some people might recognize who this gentleman is. That's Robert Scoble. He's a tech journalist. And this is me creating the thing. And the interesting thing is that I got invited to this event. I was practically the only woman in a show up. I'm practically the only woman in this enclave of 40 to 50 guys. And I was like feeling very out of place. I hadn't programmed in at least 10 years. So I brought a ream of paper, of copy paper, and a fistful of Sharpies. And I grabbed a high table and I just started designing. And so with the fat marker. And pretty soon I said, look, if I just stay here for 15 minutes, I just gave myself a deadline. I'll just stay here for 15 minutes. And if I still feel this awfully uncomfortable, then I can leave. And then that 15 minutes, kind of extended. Okay, that was all right. And so I'm still feeling comfortable, but I'm gonna give myself another 15 minutes, then another hour. And after a couple of hours, I just kept extending my deadline there. I had a bunch of people like, what is she doing? Gathered around me. And I was just, doing prototyping. So this is the game. This is the first version of the game. I made a paper prototype. You can see it was done in a Safari browser. So I actually have the URL, the website URL at the top. And then how could we prototype the things that were falling while the phone was rotating? I had been in the iPhone line to buy the first iPhone. I had followed people home and interviewed them, like what it was most interesting. People really loved how their phones rotated, and they were really surprised. A lot of wonder and surprise and magic. So I wanted to create an experience that recreated those experiences, those feelings. And this is the first version of Flip, this kind of crazy little thing. And you would go so you'd match triangles one way or squares the other way. I was experimenting with different mechanics. Here are some of the other ones. I did actually prototype a labyrinth one on paper, but Joe Hewitt, who I got teamed up with, we had no access to the accelerometer. So Joe just measured the width of the Safari browser to give us the first version of Tilt, which we see here in the lower left. And here are some more photos. And so I'm paper testing to see what people like and what people really get into in the game. And this is the photo from the camp. You actually see like a bunch of Apple Newtons in the background. It's kind of fun, people holding up their thing. So we took it from the far left. So Joe Hewitt was the programmer, I was the designer, Colin Tooney did the art. And then on the right, I self-invested. So this is like my publisher journey has always been like I just had to finance everything. I couldn't get funding. So I did it myself off my consulting income. Which means a lot of hard work and not paying myself a lot. But then I get, this is Iggy Medeiros' art, and David Gregory did the first round of programming. We've had a larger team since then, and Stuart Doobie did the amazing audio. Had a really challenge that you'll find this when you make games. What is the mechanic, especially if you're doing a new mechanic? So the concept of tilting to play was very strange and very hard to get as a graphic. When we shipped, you weren't allowed to even draw the iPhone. So, because of branding, they were really strict on the brand guidelines. And so that made it even more challenging to convey the concept of what it is we were trying to get people to do. So many iterations of the tutorial. Here are some early versions. This is the global scoreboard. So we did some tests. This is in 2009 of, geolocation game. Like, how can we make a geolocation? That'd be really cool. And then we realized that we could follow, I followed the one of the testers, a QA testers home on the Church Street bus in San Francisco by the mushrooms that they were planting, the mushkas they were planting. It's like, okay, if we do this detailed a geo game, we're gonna have some real privacy concerns. So we backed out and just created a region for all of the different, for Europe, for North America, South America, that kind of thing, Antarctica. In those tilt points, we'd have some sort of global competition, early concept. I really wanted to, the other thing is that I really wanted to make it feel rewarding. So you earn these coins, right? You tell a story. Again, this is early art. We haven't released the poem. I really want to do that at some point. And then we made the buttons really clickable and squishable. This is early art. So I just want to splat. I wanted the buttons to feel really good with a great sound effect. You probably, if you get into the tech side, this is what a sprite atlas looks like. There are many names for this. This is one of the machine levels. You jump inside a machine to dismantle it. All the green stuff is the bad stuff, and the other stuff is good. So you grab cogs, little cog wheels and nuts and stuff like that, bolts, and you're eating oil. And as you move around. And this, by laying it out this way, it helps people, it helps make the animations, just run faster. So it's helpful for me. I can program as well as design, and I can do a little bit of art. And so I have this really broad background. I tried to give myself a really experience in a lot of skill sets so I can communicate with each member of my team. And should something go wrong, which happens, I can jump in and roll it up my sleeve, and we can, get that thing, past its up to its deadline. So that's kind of how it's called risk mitigation in business terms. One of the ways I do it is I just have a very broad skill set. This is me. Unfortunately, they kicked all the launch titles out of the App Store a couple years ago, and so now I'm trying to resurrect it in Unity. So Michael Krabs is helping on the engineering side, and this is me prototyping again. See all the marker stuff here? I was trying to communicate to Michael like how the different channels and animations work. So I just was doing a Sharpie, and you can jump, flip, you can you can rotate the phone to move, flip. And then this is where all the different objects would be. So just putting marker right on the screen. That was a lot of fun. And you can tell I'm having a blast. I'm really enjoying being able to bring it back. So so that was like early career. That's one of my first original products. And when I go back that was in 2007, 2009, 2010, where I started in 1992, this is what virtual reality was. And so this is QuickTime VR. This is one of the Apple CD-ROM discs, developer discs they would send us every month. And this was a virtual museum, which looks like surprisingly lot like a lot of VR today. The window was a lot smaller, and they were QuickTime bubbles. They were just monoscopic, and they were bubbles, and you would move around. The question I've always asked is well, what's the value proposition? What would be fun? What would make it interesting for people? What would make it valuable? And of course, what would make it fun? Now, so fast forward from 1992 to 2001, or almost 2002. So in that span of 30 years, now I'm actually working with goggles. This just still blows my mind. These are the new Snap spectacles, AR. And again, happy to answer questions people have. These are AR spectacles that you can wear, and it projects a hologram in real space right in front of you. And that's kind of crazy and fun. The metaverse is really blending digital and real worlds. I still paper prototype, even in 3D, and this is a paper prototype for one of my talks here. And what you want to do is you want to think about as I go through each platform, I want to think about what really creates the most value for that platform. And for people who understand UX design in the audience here, you're familiar with what's called a WIMP, a windows, icons, mouse, and pointer. That's kind of what's run for 48 years. That's what's run GUIs for forever. And now what we need is something different. I've made up a new acronym, kind of like Neo going in the metaverse, or Matrix, whatever, going, whoa. So we want worlds. Here are some takeaways from a talk I gave recently at AWE. If you want to take a screenshot, the idea is that we want to build, instead of windows, we want to do worlds. Instead of icons and buttons, we want hands and objects, right? We want, instead of pointers, we're using our avatar, our body. And we want to make it, instead of single player, we want to make it social. If you do these things, so this is a design, what I call a design framework. And then if I look at my design or a client's design, I compare it. So what about this design is, old generation, last generation, or a WIMP? And then what about this is, could be, how can we make this more of a whoa, right? How can you go from a WIMP, because there are no WIMPs in the metaverse, right? So I just I will often say okay, there's no WIMPs, or we can't use arrows, like my early click through, Myst games where arrows. What could we do instead of arrows with buttons and stuff like that? What this does is this sort of I try and blow my own mind, if you will, on a regular basis. And this is one of the most mind-boggling things working with the Snap AR spectacles. is that I'm editing a hologram. This is Photoshop because you wouldn't see it from a third-person camera, but I'm editing a program that cube that I can see, and then I'm editing in 2D, and then I hit push, I push it to the lens, and then the cube changes. So this is what it looks like when I'm editing. It's like, what is she doing? But so I'm actually controlling that 3D object, and then I'm making a change. I'm changing it from green to blue. And then this is what it looks like from my point of view. So there's something operating in 3 space in front of me, right? And then I can see it rotate and manipulate it. And then I go back into Pancake World, into the editor, and then push it to the lens in a very rapid iteration cycle. This is where we're going. It's getting lots of really juicy problems, like how do you handle hand occlusion? This is actually for more of a display surface, so the hologram display without glasses. So this would be more like a light field display, like Looking Glass or the LumaPad mobile or Tilt 5, which is a projection table. So you get a forward throw in front of the surface, and then you get depth inside the display that you can't touch. How the heck do you do that? I go into this in more detail in my talk at AWE. Don't forget audio. So spatializing audio is, I created a choose your own adventure game called Unscramble the Oracle that you play on one of these, which is the old Bose AR glasses. It has an IMU, so it can track head pose. And then it has speakers in the arms, like Facebook Stories, but these are several years old now. And this was released in 2019. So 2018 is when these came out. And it's a choose your own adventure. You play walking around the block. So sometimes as a designer, I have to come up with something. There was no word for an audio pixel, that positional audio in space, a positional source in space. So I made up the term auxel. You'll see I've done a lot in my career, a lot of coining of terms to not so much to plant a flag in the world, but really to provide, again, something that I can use to then, it's tools and language that I can use to communicate different ideas. So audio source with positional information. And here are some of the things that I've been doing. This is on Snap Spectacles. This was a reminder in the US if you saw a post office box in the US, this was a reminder for you to mail in your ballot to encourage people to get out the vote in an interim recall election. Here are some things I've done with the Snap camera. So this is on a mobile phone when it's facing you. So this was a lens that I made for Dune, some crazy Cousin It thing, and then this Pocket Opera thing. This is I did a hackathon a couple weeks ago, and this is a paper doll opera. It's a pocket opera you can actually fit in your pocket. So here I'm doing it using Snapchat. So again, using the mobile phone, you tap, you place this, and then you have these cutout characters, all existing in your world with audio, and then you can, swap out, make casting choices, background choices. This is all to get more youth engaged and make opera more accessible and engaging for the audience. If there is another theme to my career, it is certainly I do a lot of hackathons, which I encourage. Especially starting out, because you can get a group of people together for a weekend, you make a product, or maybe 4 days, and then you've got something in your portfolio, and you've tried out a lot of cool ideas that you never would have thought of otherwise with a different kind of project or deadline. And then I also try and stay up on the latest technology. I'm just naturally curious. So this is a photogrammetry scan that I did of an old stereoscope that I have here at the studio, 1903. This is for our game Follow the White Rabbit. And as you see here, this is with the Apple, the new Apple stuff. And you see here, it's got quite a lot of detail. So the one on the right is an illusion, and the one hologram, and then the one on the left is the actual stereogram. And when I do these experiments, it's kind of like, what is the art, what is the visual, what could the tech do? But it's still the role of the game designer. Now, what could make this fun? How could we work this into a game about a magician whose magic one day suddenly works? This is a different tech. This was with Displayland, and I'm scanning the California College of Arts and Crafts, which is just across the street, and they're threatening to cut down all the trees and it's a historic site, and they're threatening to bulldoze practically the whole thing. So I was looking at, what could we use with tech to help with cultural preservation, or at least, getting people to be concerned and speak up about preserving the campus. And this is a mixed one. So this is actually a photographic scan of the environment, and then I'm putting in buildings, the new buildings in the background. They want to put in a 19-story glass office tower, not this. And so I was prototyping like what would be a more historic kind of shorter thing that would look a little bit better behind the historic buildings. So yeah, so there are a couple more things. I can see we're running over on time, but these are some of my original games. We've talked already about Follow the that should be Tilt World on the far left. Let me just talk a little bit about Follow the White Rabbit. Here are some of our stats in terms of what we've done. And so in Follow the White Rabbit, it's an adventure game that uses emotion science and machine learning and virtual reality to take you to magical locations around the world. And the vision, what I do is a lot about, in addition to unlocking human potential, is that this stuff, XR really is a trip to Wonderland. And I grew up in Wonderland. I grew up overseas in the Middle East, so outside of Western culture for about 5 years, riding camels, climbing pyramids, exploring fire temples. And I want to go back and feel those same emotions I had when I was a kid. So that's like the motivation for Follow the White Rabbit. And with XR, I really felt like I can. So this is a game, it starts in a cafe in Paris in 1889. It's the eve of the World's Fair. The Eiffel Tower, you can see, is still under construction. And you have this, it's an escape room. So multi kind of sensory thing. We talk a lot about these different assembly puzzles. So at the time it was 3DOF, so 3 directions of freedom. And so how can I get interaction without using hands? And how can I have the room respond to you? And I did a series of paper prototypes, iPhone visualizations, and then feedback. Here you see, really to get this working well, is I had to put a lot of bright, shiny feedback on everything you did because it was so new to be in the space. And then I had a novel user interaction interaction thing. And then I had to have feedback on the puzzles if you solved it right or if you didn't solve it right. So I couldn't throw enough feedback. But once I got to that 100 times the amount of feedback I had at the beginning, that's when our NPS score, our Net Promoter Score, went from -5 to 69. Anyway, so these are some of the things. And then lastly, I wanted to show just a little bit of Aladdin's Cave of Wonders, since this is done in AR, so different kind of frame. And it is, you project it into the room. And so here we're positioning the world by opening a book. And then we go through we actually go through the book. And I filled the room that you're in with these CGI trees. And they're all hung with gems. But the cave is cursed. And so if you touch anything in the cave, it will cause the cave to collapse. And everyone knows if you die in AR, you die in real life. So let's not do that. Let's start again. And if you instead avoid, use your hands, which have magic spells, avoid, touching the trees and stuff and all the treasure until you find the magic lamp. Then you can gather as much treasure as you want. So here he's trying to solve a puzzle to get at the lamp. And then once you do, you can gather. And so these are all virtual, like you see, there's not, what she sees is kind of overlaid on top. And then this is what we did. I did a little bit later. This was these are finger spells. So I'm doing gesture recognizers to actually unlock the puzzle. So you have a love spell. So you have to spell out the word love with your fingers, and then as you do so, the game recognizes it and it goes forward. So my final advice to wrap up is that if you wanted to have a crazy adventure for 30 odd years, almost 30 years, is really following the White Rabbit. And if I could say one thing, is master something new every year. And that's what I've done. as a bed, I've always had like one research project or one game project running every year underneath my consulting practice. And I've used that to build, new muscles and, sort of skate to where the puck is going to be. And you want to find something that you enjoy. If you want to be independent, you have to find something you enjoy that generates the leads for new work. For me, it was speaking at conferences and, more than cold calling. It also fed well into the research. So I do new research that would give me a new talk. And then I would interact with new people. And then that would generate, new business for my studio. And it's important the other advice I'd say is to build relationship. It's really the people that you work with, again, not necessarily the company. And so we've done, 40 games with PlayFirst, 12 with LucasArts, lots of different repeat customers. Which is the think long term, so you want repeat businesses. It's my definition of success is when a client orders, version 2, a second project. But we've also had people, the client lead would then move to a different company. And so then that new company would get introduced to Zio Design and we would do more work with them. And then when you're in the innovation space, if there's no word for it, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Okay, that's very important, that it can be something that's out there. And if, so there was no term for player experience, easy fun, Amiro, Oxel, etc. So I had to coin things and then also produce visual models to describe stuff that I saw, stuff that actually exists, even though there wasn't a thing for it. And then finally, when there's something wrong for diversity and inclusion, when there's something wrong in the world, be the change, model the change, point things out, be solution oriented as well, offer, and get, provide the leadership, model the leadership that we need to move things forward. Great. So here's a little bit of my contact info for folks, and I'm happy to follow up with URLs or something if people would like. But thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much for being here. As I was saying at the very, very beginning, your career spans so many different projects and so many other companies and so much different type of work. So I think it's really exciting to see how you, as a creator and very much a director, have explored all these different types of technologies and platforms and really not pigeonholed yourself into one thing or one way. And that there's so much social impact in your work as well. It's so playful. So thank you for this. I know that we are, you're getting wonderful endorsements in the chat. Oh my God.
Oh, hey, Coralie.
Yeah. She's our next speaker and
she's also awesome. Wherever she is on your screen, Coralie is also awesome.
It's incredible to see how supportive specifically the XR community is in the US and that there's a lot of encouragement, I think, particularly between women. So yeah, I love all the endorsements between the two of you. I'll say for any of our participants, questions right off the bat. Nicole's done so much different work. So again, the fact that you've offered your contact information is very generous and feel free to follow up with her too. While we have just like one more minute left. I actually have a question for you myself in terms of self-funding. So how would you budget out for your projects normally? Or was it sort of like as a cost came up, you would just throw money at it? Or would you actually have a budget going into a project that you were self-funding?
Yeah, so I think what's amazing about Europe, anywhere outside the US, as you mentioned earlier, is that you have government grants. Mm-hmm. There is a very rich, tradition of art grants, and there are a lot of incentives, even on the business side, to found a studio. The US has very, very little. And so it was challenging. It's less challenging now, but early in my career, it was even challenging for people to get the idea that I made this, this iPhone game, right? Or that I would be funded. So what I would do with Tilt World, frankly, it took me about 3 years to, when I was working 2 to 3 shifts a day to, just set that money aside. And then I, and gave myself permission to spend my own money on a game that, may or may not make money in the marketplace. So I set myself a budget, and then when we hit alpha, in the case of Tilt World, the game levels weren't fun, right? They were, I thought I could do like Tetris. Tetris works really well with random stuff. It wasn't fun with random things. So I had to actually then stop the design and rethink like how to build levels. So we had to build a level design language. I wrote 600 pages of 500 to 600 pages of script for running all the levels. And so then it was, a question of, okay, well, let me crack open this savings account, and then let me crack open this savings account. So I did set a budget initially, and then I have a budget running, entirely, for the whole project. And then you have that uncomfortable situation of like, okay, well, it's not fun. Can we release it? Apple wants these changes. Do we then fund that? So it can be a real challenge. But the most expensive thing in general has been the programming. It's still somewhat true, but now that we have actual engines like Unity and Unreal, it's a lot easier to get done. And I kept the teams really, really small. So there was one artist and one engineer and that kind of thing for most of the projects that I worked on, to help get that. To help get that going. And then if we get, the more recent ones, I just have done a lot of, volunteer work where I'm putting in just hours, of my own time. So for Follow the White Rabbit, for example, I'm actually the lead engineer. For the Aladdin thing that you showed, I'm also the lead engineer. And so then because I'm doing it, then I can sort of volunteer my way to move it across the deadline. Or across to get it going. If you want, though, a lot of platforms do offer funding. So I definitely try a lot. So I enter a lot of contests and a lot of, I think the contests are good, especially when you're starting out. But what's better is when you develop relationships with the platforms, which is the strategy I'm currently on. Not successful yet with, although with this one, we did get, there was a 10K. So each person got $2,000, which is not a whole lot, to make this Choose Your Own Adventure. So having those internal ones really help to go.
Thank you for sharing and being transparent about that, because I think that's the key for so many independent artists, is understanding, do I build this without the assurance that I'm going to have budget? Do I do it anyway? Where does that land? Do I keep applying for grants while I just have a pitch deck? How much do I need a prototype, etc.?
Yeah, you definitely need the prototype to visualize, especially because there's so much content out there. And then what I did with the scores that I showed is that I'm proving traction. I'm proving that people like it. So when I took Follow the White Rabbit, was an early there was a VR mobile game jam, and the people that were funding it just couldn't understand it. They wanted fast action games. They didn't want, slow puzzlers. They were very, kind of hardcore oriented sort of folks. And so it was a real challenge to get them to say, to get them to even take the meeting. It was 5 months and 5 reschedules before I could meet with the platform content people. And it took a lot of perseverance. Now there's a lot of really cool programming that goes out there. And then I should say that we did a lot of demos. So when I got rejected like the second time on that platform, I said, well, fine. I just got mad, and I said, okay, well, I'm going to prove you that there's a market for this. And so that I'm just gonna demo till I die type of thing. And so we've put 4,000 people into VR because of that. A lot of people are, their first experience was Follow the White Rabbit. And, Corley Rosario is also, she did amazing stuff. So she is actually responsible for quite a bit of that, because she helped, that's how we met. She volunteered. Yeah. She volunteered, and she was like, helping me demo at all of these events. I mean, not all the events, but so many of the events.
I mean, I think I was like demoing with you for like almost 3 years, something like that.
Yep.
Whoa.
Yeah, and then I was doing, and then I just did meetups. So I was doing a meetup a week. It was just crazy here in San Francisco, and I would just try and put it on as many faces as I could. We built, with Coralie's help, we built an email list, a wait list of about 1,500 people. So those kind of collaborations are really amazing. And then, of course, with Coralie, she has done so much. She's mentored so many people in the industry, and now she's got this amazing job that she's going to tell you about, and working with Niantic, I think. But yeah,
we do have a question from one of our
Yeah.
participants.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much
Hello.
for your talk. And yes, I had a question because you talked about paper prototype, and I think it's very interesting for budget reasons you just talked about, and also for like how to have a lower impact. So I was very interested to learn more about that, and
Yeah.
also to know if it's possible to do that in VR. For some reason, I think it's more difficult, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Well, I always start, the best story starts with real early in my career, where I was working on Myst. I worked on 3 of the different Myst games. So those were Exploration, 2.5D. They were just slideshows at the time, for the most part. And I took it to a game. It was a serious game, an educational game called How Computers Work. And so I wanted to have this perspective camera, and it was still kind of a slideshow. You could just click, and then we only had this posted slides, video. And so the 3D artists were like going, oh, great. Well, we could design the motherboard however we wanted to, so that all the parts on the computer could be visible and you could click on them. And so they went off, and they're starting in their 3D program. And I thought, well, you know what? Actually, I'm just going to make a paper prototype. So I took a sheet of cardboard, and then I took, paper, folded it up. And within an hour, I had it all laid out. And then they were still like trying to model the GPU or whatever, or the slots for the SCSI cards and stuff like that. So there's a real advantage to doing paper prototyping really early on. And so by putting it as a piece of paper, I could then, move things around and like look at it from this angle, and then move stuff around like little Legos. I do a lot of Lego prototyping. This is the one for the voting thing that I showed earlier. So this was just like, that was the image. That was the image that got into the game. But you might still not believe me. So the thing for Follow the White Rabbit is, oh yeah, let me go grab that. I think you'll like that. Hold on. It is really early in the morning. So I was like, what kind of props should I use? So I don't know if you can make my picture big, but so this is a paper prototype of the room. So this is a full color version. So you can see that there's not a lot of detail in it. So we don't have the chairs yet. And this is Brandon Jones is the artist that is doing this amazing work in the background. And so this was it. But what I did was I created a napkin sketch like you just saw for the voting thing. But then I took paper, and see, this is just paper stuck together, right? It's just paper stuck together. And I created a sketch, not a 3D. And then what I did is I took file folders and I wrapped it around like this, right? So in a sense, I took a black and white version and I wrapped it around like this. And I had 4 file folders that made a box, okay? And I put paper clips in it, and then I stuck this tube of my sketch inside it. And then I took one of these, prototype, and then I stuck the video camera in the world right inside the box, right? And then I'm looking at it from all the different angles, and I'm watching the screen as I'm moving it around, right? And then it's like, okay, I got to move this around. And then I would like lean it over on the edge of the table, and I'd stick my head inside, so I could look around. Yeah, that worked great. There are some more prototyping tools, like people prototype in Tilt Brush. Tavori makes a Shapes XR. I'm going to get a tour of that on Thursday, I think, this week, where it's kind of a low prototyping thing. In Unity, I do a lot of white box prototyping or gray box prototyping, where I take and this is what I do, is I say, this is the challenge. It's like only using Unity primitives, a sphere, a square, a plane, or a cone, whatever. I'm going to model this out in Unity and then run it on whatever piece of hardware, you know, I'm designing for. And so that's like a little bit higher resolution. But if in the prototyping stage, if you can keep it in paper, then you can iterate tons faster. Because it took those, back to the how computers work thing, it took those artists like 2 days to, I mean, just to create all the models, right? And then I was there the next day, you know, for the thing. It's like, okay, here, look, this is, I just like had this manila envelope, and I opened the manila envelope and I just pushed out all the little paper origami stuff, and we could model it out. And then you can do body prototyping and that kind of fun thing. I don't know, did that help? Was that interesting?
Yes, thank you. That's great. It's very creative. I love it.
Yeah, it's we can get fascinated with the tools when I work with companies, and this is true if I'm working with, you know, someone from Ubisoft or from EA, or you know, a large studio or a small indie, is that you can get fascinated with the tools and then you just get sucked in. And now I'm in Photoshop and I'm doing all this amazing Photoshop thing, but I forgot to make it fun first. So it's got to be fun. My rule is it's got to be fun in black and white. It's got to be fun in really simple 3D model and interactive. Then other ways. And, you know, but again, you can get surprised. So I waited too long to test the Tilt World, for example. The early game was great, just with matching green and blue, the different colors. That seemed to work really super well. But once I made it complicated with the colored backgrounds and the story and all of that, then the brain needed something more to, more to hang on to. So we lost the fun, even though the art went up in resolution. And so testing with actual players is really, really key.
Testing all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to jump in and say that we're going to have to jump to our next speaker talk.
Of course. I can't. Yeah, no, Coralie, you gotta.
No, but I think it's really great to talk about tools and the ways in which we communicate our ideas, because it can be so hard to figure out how to do that, especially working between different types of media. So I think that was fantastic, specifically talking about the prototyping. And again, anyone can reach out to Nicole because she's given her information, all of her information as well. There should be either a link out to her profile in the document I sent, but anyone can find her because she has an incredibly unique name. You'll find her on social media, on LinkedIn, all that good stuff.
Yeah, you can definitely, if you can Google me with videos, and so you can usually see a lot of my videos are public, so you can see them that way too.
Yeah. Thank you so much for this. And feel free to hang out if you want to also now listen to Coralie's talk.
Oh, I'm definitely going to. Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
If that's okay. Okay, good.
Yeah. No, thank you for this. I think that was fantastic, and talking about your career and all of your work. Thank you for being here today.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Great. Thank all of you. Thank you for your attention, and good luck. Good luck. This is an amazing program. And again, it's about the relationships. So if the US has a very strong market, financial wise, in terms of players on the player side, and then Europe has a very strong funding market. So, leveraging those two things could be really, really interesting. I actually know a number of developers in the US that come from Europe and then are getting grants and then trying to figure out, okay, we'll do that, and then we'll do the European team, and then I'm in the US, so I'm going to do the marketing side. Lots of interesting ways to cut it. So thanks again, and good luck.
On that tiny side note of funding, especially with European grants, if you wind up getting some form of seed grant in the EU, it makes you very attractive to larger tech companies here, because they're like, oh, they already have a market and an audience and funding coming from another continent. It's easier to make the case to fund them in the US. So you can get larger money here, perhaps, but then it can show that you're viable to fund at home. So
and you can get
disappointed about that.
And then getting into festivals in Europe, which might be wherever it is, where it's easier, just getting that track record. Okay, we're in these festivals can really help. And I don't know if it was mentioned earlier, but the Nordic festivals are really amazing. The Nordic game festivals, and then there are some in Germany that I'm forgetting. But yeah, Nordic, and then White Nights, and a number of different gaming and XR. In a lot of ways, when I was coming to Europe doing several talks in like 2007 or so, and I was blown away at the state of creativity in XR. So I had some of my first experiences of this there. And then there's also the World VR Forum, and that happens in Switzerland, I believe. That's still running. I was in the inaugural thing. Those are a couple more resources for the Europe side. Anyway, but thank you very much. And let's give it over to Coralie. Super excited.
Thank you. Awesome.
Hey, everyone.
Thank
Good
you.
morning.
Hi.
And yeah, Nicole's awesome. I've known Nicole for, I don't know, since like 2015, 2016. So we've known each other for quite a bit. And she's a great friend and mentor. I'm Coralie. Let me share my screen real quick. Move this over here. So yeah, I'm Coralie. I'm a senior UX designer. Been working in the industry for 8+ years now, specifically in games. I have worked on apps and web in the past, and you know, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my story, how I got here, some things that I've worked on, and then just we can talk a little bit about what it's like leveraging storytelling in the work that I do. Super quick about me. I like trying new things. I really like trying anything that's innovative, anything that's coming up, to see like how I could bridge the gap between, you know, the developers and what they're testing or what they're coming up with that's new, and the players or the users. So I like hands-off on approach and really just seeing like what that's like. I'm really into magic. I am, I am a player as is, not only like digital games, but also physical games. I'm Puerto Rican. I love my plantains. Super into Disney. I know that's very cliche, but I am very much a Disney fan. But that aside, I do work for Niantic right now. I am down here in LA working on something new. I'm also the main lead for Nianticos, which is our Latin American ERG. And just in case an ERG is employee resource group, it's an additional resource within the company to make sure that employees are supported, especially from like very specific communities, are being supported, seeing professional growth, and also tapping back into the communities that we actually serve. I'm also the vice president of the PRGDA, the Puerto Rican Game Developers Association. We are working towards a nonprofit status, but we are dedicated to Puerto Rican game developers on and off the island and helping them with resources, funding, honestly, anything that can just get them to, you know, make their games. And sorry about that. And I do a lot of speaking as well. I do a lot of mentorship. I just want to make sure that we're represented out there, both as a woman, but also as Latin American, and making sure that folks have not only that representation part in our industry, which is very lacking in when it comes to Latin American representation, but also just getting resources that they wouldn't have otherwise. And I didn't just fall into game development or apps or anything like that. Like, I did start, like everyone else, with an impossible choice. What do I want to do with my life? Do I want to be a vet? In my case, I really liked animals. I just loved dogs. And thanks to a program that I had when I was in high school, I actually got to spend some time with a vet. And I very quickly realized, no, I don't want to be a vet. I almost fainted during that like program while I was watching them do a procedure on one of the dogs and stuff. I'm like, nope, I don't have the stomach for this. So what other skills do I have, especially, you know, at the incredibly old age of 16? And the other skill I had was art. You know, I love drawing. I love anime. I still do. I was really into like painting. I was just like, you know, all my classes all the time, just like drawing in like the little side of my notebook. Is there something that I can maybe do with art? And additional to that, I was playing a lot of games. I am a child of like the 90s and early 2000s, so I was playing like a lot of Pokemon, really into DDR, and you know, Kingdom Hearts was like just formational for me. And at some point in high school, I realized like someone has to make all of these, right? Is that a possible career that I can pursue? And, you know, like, especially with my skill sets in art, can I like bring that into game development? Like someone does that, right? Yes, someone does that. However, take into account, I am Puerto Rican and I come from a very small island in the middle of the Caribbean. And unfortunately, there's no game industry on this island, or at least when I was living there, there was no game industry. So when I asked my parents, like, hey, can I go study to be a game developer? Can I go study to do concept art for video games? The answer was a resounding no. You cannot leave. I'm like, okay, so what is my plan B? So thankfully on the island, there is a School of Fine Arts. I studied there and I studied graphic design. I also have like a lot of experience with like painting and sculpture and even like photography, because the school like just showed you everything. But I really focused on graphic design and I have a bachelor's degree in that. I worked as a graphic designer for many years, 10 plus years. And I was on the island for a really long time. And as I got older, I realized this ain't it. I need more. So I made the huge decision to travel all the way to California. My family was super heartbroken because it meant I was going to be 3,600 miles away from them. I went to San Francisco first and I got a master's degree in video game development because I realized, okay, now that I'm older, they can't say no. And San Francisco, you know, has this industry that's booming over there. It's like very tech forward. It's there's a lot of like mobile game companies there. I can totally see myself doing something there. So I went, got my master's degree in video game development with specifically a focus in UI UX. And the reason for that is because I had such a strong background in graphic design, I felt that that could easily lend itself over to user experience and user interface. They kind of crafted a program for me because I was like kind of the first person to ever ask for classes on user experience and user interface. And, you know, I graduated with that master's degree. I worked on several student projects where I was either creating, you know, the UI for this game, or I was actually like project lead for these games. With the Wild 11 over here, I was very much like leading a bunch of other students into like creating this tower defense game. With Max's Adventure, I was doing UI design and typography design as well. And while I was still in school, I was also working. I was doing a lot of contract work, a lot of freelance work. So I worked on Amigo Cloud, which is a platform that lets surveyors that are out in the field, you know, like plotting out terrain, allow them to be able to bring all that work that they're doing into a more digital platform. Just so you know, like a lot of surveyors, they still do everything by pen and paper or pencil and paper. So there's very few tools out there that actually, or when I was designing this and working on this team, there's very few tools out there that actually let them do this all digitally. And we were like one of the first tools that let them. I also worked on gamified experiences. So Habit Monster was a game where you had like this pet monster and you were encouraged to walk a lot during the day to keep them happy. You could feed them, you can play games with them. So it was kind of like a health tracking app, but with this sort of like gamified aspect to it with the monster. When I finally got my first full-time job, I worked on a very hardcore mobile game called, at the time it was Brink of War. Now it's something Strike. I don't remember what it is right now. But I worked on this game. It was what they call a 4X game, where you have a huge map with just tons and tons of people, like thousands, hundreds of thousands of people on the map where you can attack them. You have your base, which you construct and upgrade. You send troops out to attack other people. You gain new tanks or new types of characters that you can, upgrade as well and get like buffs from and everything. So with here, this was my first full-time job. I was a junior designer, a UX designer specifically. And I was also doing UI as well. But this is the point with this game where I started shifting more into UX. I also worked on Samsung Kids, which is kind of like a Netflix-ish app, but for games, video, books, etc. Specifically for kids, sorry. Same thing with Kadomi. I helped a little bit there and really good stuff. I helped a little bit with the design on those two apps as well. And again, it was more an app rather than game focused. But while I was at this company, and just in case, this company was called Fingerprint. While I was still at Fingerprint, I also worked on my first AR app. Wild and Seek was a game where you take pictures of animal life. And the way it worked is you pointed your tablet or your phone at this piece of paper that you would lay on a flat surface. It would scan the QR code or the image that was on it. And from that flat surface, an island would appear out of, the flat surface or the table or floor. And there would be animals wandering around the island, and you would just go take pictures of them. If you got too close to them, they would run away, and you couldn't take great pictures. If you took amazing pictures, it would give you like super high bonuses and high points. You collected trophies based on how well you did taking those pictures. And usually at the end of every session, there was like a sort of like quiz or pop quiz about that animal that you took pictures of. This was definitely geared towards children. From what I remember, it was like ages 6 to like 12 or 11. And it was in combination with a company that we were working with in Australia. And I also worked on Wheel of Fortune. There's a mobile game for this. I was at Scopely for a pretty long time, just improving their experience. And I'm going to show y'all like a little bit of the work that I did there. Like I mentioned before, now I'm working at Niantic. And for those who don't know anything about Niantic, we're the ones that, made Pokemon Go. We made Harry Potter. And just recently we released Pikmin, Pikmin Bloom. And this one is less of there's still AR aspects to it, but this one is more just like a lifestyle app. You're walking, you're getting more Pikmin, finding seeds, planting flowers. It's a very, very cute game. I've been playing it every day. In my case, just in case, and clarifying this, I haven't worked on Pokemon Go or Harry Potter or Pikmin. What I'm working on is something completely new, and it's down here in the LA studio. I can't really talk about it, unfortunately. So today I can't show you what I've been doing there, but I can kind of show my process using other examples. So there's going to be a lot of hypotheticals that I'm going to be talking about today. But yeah, I guess talking a little bit about like what it's like as a UX designer in games. And sorry, someone asked something maybe. Yes, go play Pikmin. It's a really cute game. The last time I went to Disneyland, I just like opened the app and just did it the whole day. And I got like 26,000 steps and so many more Pikmin and so many flowers. And it was nice. It enhances your like experience that you're already going with. But yeah, what's it like to be a UX designer in games? So one thing I want to kind of note is that, at least in my experience, a lot of the companies that I've been at or teams that I've been on, very few have actually worked with UX designers, or they have a very biased, I guess, view of what UX design is. They think it's just UI and it's just making things pretty, and that's all I do. That is not the case. I do a lot of strategy. I do a lot of process. A lot of the stuff that I have to insert myself in is, you know, advocating for our players, approaching solutions or approaching problems with the player in mind, because even though a lot of the game designers that I've worked with are amazing game designers, they really focus on the system and how we build the system over who we're building it for. And that's where a UX designer has to come in and remind them, there's people on the other side of the screen that is not you that's going to be playing this game. So that's a lot of my job consists of that, and reminding my team and my game designers like why we do it this way. What does that look like specifically? Same as apps and web. It's a lot of wireframes. It's a lot of flowcharts explaining states, why we have to have it in this state, and why, like, what it's communicating to players, so that they can make good decisions or make informed decisions about what their strategy is going to be like, or their next steps in the flow. I do a lot of, sometimes depending on how far along the game is. I also do some UI mocks, but again, I've shifted more over to the UX side versus like being like a full UI UX designer, like I was in the past. My mocks are usually very, very detailed. They explain not only fully for game designers, but also for our engineers to really understand how something is going to work. Sometimes I create animated GIFs of what something is going to look like and how it's going to function, so that the engineer can know to prepare that implementation correctly. I do a lot of writing, so much writing, you have no idea. But eventually that writing does become a feature in a game. In my writing, I also include, again, any sort of GIFs, any sort of wireframes, just explaining as best I can how this is going to work and why it has to work this way. This isn't a solo process. I am always talking to my entire team, checking in with them. Hey, engineer, can we actually build this way? Yes, no, okay. So if we can't, how can we actually build it? Like, what are the limitations? What do we have to change from this design to make sure that we can somehow get it to as close as we can to the ideal? Same with game design. You know, I know this is the system that you want us to build or the feature that you want us to build, but there's some issues with it because of, you know, any sort of impact that it's going to have to the player. A really popular or common one that I run into when I'm working on teams is, if we're working on a more casual game, but game designers really, really want to make this super complex system because they love strategy and they think it's super fun, I have to be the one to come in, reel them in a little bit and be like, we can't really make this strategy focused because our main player, or the type of game that we're creating for the type of player that we're creating it for, is more casual focused. So they don't really care or even want to be involved in strategy. They want really quick experiences that reward them really highly. A lot of times they just want to push one button and that's it. They don't want to worry about anything else. So I have to kind of like be a little bit of the bad guy and remind them like, no, we can't build it this way. But let's find out how we can build it so that you're still happy while making sure that our player understands and achieving what the player wants. But yes, a lot of writing, a lot of GDDs. But when I'm actually designing, how do I leverage storytelling, especially in regards, in this case specifically, what I mean by storytelling is when I'm talking to the rest of my team. Sometimes I do help with narrative, and on the team I'm on right now, I have helped with narrative and character creation, especially testing concepts and that kind of stuff. But a bit of storytelling does have to come into the actual design process and your approach with your team. One of the things that I just kind of want to highlight very quickly for you, there is this concept of like the Bartles player types It is much larger than this now, but these are like the 4 main player types whenever you are creating a game for a specific type of player. Sometimes it overlaps, and that's totally okay. But this is, you know, what I like to point back to, because it does relate back to the designers that I'm working with. So you have your killers, like the people that really, the types of players that really like fighting, engaging, overpowering other players, winning. Winning is really important to them. You have your achievers. These are the types of players that really like getting those like new achievements, unlocking new things, getting first place on leaderboards, getting those special items that only you get by completing like very specific things in the game. Your socializers, these are types of players that really enjoy games when they're able to play them with other people or engage with other people. And your explorers, the types of players that just want to explore the world and everything it offers. They like to, a lot of times these are like the kinds of players that like to break your game a little bit because they want to push like what exactly they could get away with in the game. But really it's just about like the narrative, the consuming of the entire game. I like to leverage these because these different types of players have different motivations or different reasons why they play their games. And that's a really great way to communicate to our designers why we have to build the game or a feature a specific way. These Bardo player types did kind of evolve into, well, I'll get to that in a minute. It did evolve into more of a motivational model. And I'll get to that screen in a minute. The other thing I like doing with my designers is empathy mapping. Again, a lot of times game designers are really, really focused on just building the system and how we build that system, how we build combat, how we build our inventory system, any sort of like, if there's like a map or a world that you can access, like how we build that world, how the graphics look, like all that stuff. And they focus so much on the how, and not as much on the why or for who. So empathy mapping is a really good exercise that I like doing with them to kind of like bring them back onto the who. With empathy mapping, you are kind of focusing on a type of player and going through everything that influences that player externally, internally, with other games. Yeah, empathy is super important in the work that I do. So we talk about what they're thinking or feeling, any sort of aspirations that they might have for themselves, like when they are playing games, or sometimes in general, because if my aspiration is to be the best in, I don't know, in like their daily lives, then that can translate over into the games that they're playing. Things that really matter to them, their hopes and dreams, what they see around them, like what their environment is influencing them about either game playing or themselves as players, the community and what the community is saying about game playing, any sort of influences or friends, what they hear, you know, what are they saying, what are others saying to them, what family's saying to them, their boss, again, their friends, either about themselves or about their game playing habits, what they say and do in public, what their appearance is like, physical appearance could be, their attitudes in public, how they hold themselves, how they present themselves to other people, their behavior towards others, that one is really important, and what they do on a day-to-day. Is this a person that commutes to work every day? Is this a person that's in school? Are they a homemaker? What does their schedule look like, and how does that influence how they play games? Really great example is like, if I'm commuting every day on the bus for like an hour, then I'm probably playing a game on my phone. So I want to make sure that whatever session I have is going to fit within that hour, because chances are I probably won't go back to the game after I'm done commuting. Their pains, any sort of like fears or frustrations or obstacles that they'll run into, if that will like just completely turn them off from playing a game. And any gains, like desires, needs, and the really, really important one that I love making sure we really nail down is how they measure success. How do they feel they're being successful at something? And how can we make sure we include that in the feature or game that we're creating? Nicole, I always love showing your 4 keys to fun. I don't know if you already talked about it, and let me know if you did.
Yes, we do.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome to if you want.
Yes.
I just did an emotion thing. So yeah, go for it.
No, it's okay. If you guys already covered it, it's fine. But yes, this is something I always bring to my game designers as well. How we measure emotion and based on the type of fun that we're trying to achieve, and what type of actions or what types of things we need the player to go through in order to feel that emotion. I always come back to this with my game designers, and especially if we're like trying to hit that hard fun or that easy fun. Usually those two, depending on the type of game that I'm working on, those two tend to be like a little bit tricky for them. And like I mentioned before, the Bartle's player type has kind of evolved into this sort of player motivational model. This is from Quantic Foundry. It's something in the UX, games UX specifically, we go back to this all the time. It takes different types of players and puts them into like a bunch of different categories. And it goes into like what specifically motivates them within those categories. So if I'm a player that's really into action, really into seeing things explode and just like being able to relish in the chaos, I guess, what is it that I'm looking for? What's motivating me? It's that destruction aspect, it's that mayhem, that chaos, but it's also part of that excitement, making sure that there's just something happening all the time. It's very fast paced. There's like a lot of thrills in it. Same thing, with social, that competition aspect of it, or it could be a community building aspect of it. It depends on the type of game, and so on and so forth. I really, really recommend checking out their player motivational model. They have an amazing GDC talk that goes in depth into explaining how they use it. The way I use it, when I'm creating my personas, and yes, we do leverage personas as well in my UX process. We identify either through interviews. Sometimes you don't have the budget to do interviews, so you have to find other ways. A lot of times what I do is workshops with my team to really identify who is going to be like our main personas. And usually I try to limit it to 4, sometimes 3, sometimes you realize that there's like 6. So you have to like pare that down. But what I like to do is, instead of attaching a name to a persona, like this is Bill and that's it, I like to refer to the persona by what they do or what they think or who they are. So if I were to be working on a game about Star Wars, I'm not, just in case. If I were to be working on a game about Star Wars, what type of Star Wars fan is this? Is it old school, new school? Is it a very young, like Star Wars fan, just like getting to know it? And some sort of blurb about like what they think, like this is the way. It's very clear that this is someone who consumes the newer type of content, like The Mandalorian. They like the movies because it's, giving them more lore. We go into a player description of like what it is that they engage with, why they engage with those things. We go into like player motivation, what it is that they're looking for when they are actually playing games. examples of types of games or apps that they could potentially be using, any sort of needs, things that they absolutely need this game to nail down, and any sort of pain points, things that if that's not in the game or is doing it incorrectly, they would just be like, nope, I'm done, I'm out. We leverage this a lot through different workshops and processes that I do on our team. I also leverage user stories. You've probably seen this in some fashion. As a type of user, I want to be able to do this thing because or for this reason. That can look like, as a player, I want to hit my enemies multiple times for multi-hit combos. It could be a little more vague. With Pokemon, one example could be like, indicating which Pokemon I want to keep in Pigo so that I don't accidentally turn them into candy. Or it could be like super generalized, like I just want the ability to communicate with my guild because I want to organize raids. This is a really great process for more agile teams, and the way I leverage them is in our GDDs. Whenever we start, I forgot, I don't think I explained what a GDD is. Game design document. It is a multi-page document that explains a feature in its pretty much in its entirety, from the experience and walkthrough of the feature down to like what the data should be including. But yeah, I use it in our GDDs at the very top when we start talking about player goals, stakeholder goals, game design goals, even as far as like company goals, like why are we building this thing and what is the metric that we want this thing to achieve. Player goals are just as important as company goals, really. And a lot of times people turn these into Jiras or Jira tickets or Trello tasks, with the purpose of the player story or the user story and the player goal is the guiding light to how we're going to build the thing. If what they want or what a player wants is the ability to communicate with a guild or with their guild to be able to organize raids, there's multiple ways we can handle that. It just doesn't have to be a chat system and that's it. It could be, especially if the way that you're designing your game doesn't include a chat system. So how can I communicate things with my guild in very efficient and succinct ways? And it's focusing around the why rather than the how. We also leverage user journeys. Multiple or the same feature can be used in different ways based on the type of player or the type of user that's engaging with that feature. If I am someone who is able to go outside, and I'm using a hypothetical here just in case with Pokemon Go and our gyms and raid system. If I'm someone who's actually able to go outside and walk around, my experience is very straightforward. I go outside, I open my game, I walk up to a gym, I fight in the gym. That's it. However, if I'm someone who's not able to go outside because I have an accessibility need or I'm taking care of my kid and I can't leave the house right now, but I have like a little break in between, nap time and cooking dinner or whatever. So what is my experience going to be like in that sense? I stay at home, I open the game, I see there's a gym close by, but it's just barely out of reach. Maybe I can walk to the other end of my home and that lets me walk into the radius of the gym. I can now access my gym, I can fight in the gym. Sometimes not. Sometimes the experience ends right at like, I see the gym, but it's too far away. There's nothing I can do. Then there's also the experience of a player, who's commuting, either on train or bus. They're going really fast, so they can't really fight in a gym, but they can probably still interact with it. So they're commuting, they open the game, they see that a gym is coming towards them, as they're on the bus. They could probably tap the gym while it's still in their radius and spin the gym, but they can't really fight in it. So all these different types of stories are super important to, one, cover any edge cases that we may have missed with game design and how we're planning on building this feature. But it is, again, just bringing that empathy aspect back into the game design process through storytelling, essentially, and explaining experiences to the team. Even if we are talking about the same type of feature, the same, in this case, raids or the gym in Pico. It lets us think about the solutions we haven't reached because we never thought about something. Another thing that we leverage all the time is we kind of borrow from the animation industry. I do storyboards, so does my team. It's either a storyboard that's going to be encompassing of the entire experience, especially with a game like Pigo or some sort of AR game and geolocation-based game. Your environment is just as important as what you're doing on your phone because they influence each other. So in my storyboard, I would probably have to show like, hey, this is a person walking outside. They pull out their phone. Give me a second, hold on. They pull out their phone. They see that there's a gym nearby. They're going to start walking towards the gym. As they're approaching the gym, they see that there's other people playing. When they look back at their phone, they probably see that there's a raid that's going to start soon. So they see that these other people that are here are there for the raid. So they take this as an opportunity to go ahead and join the raid and, you know, beat the Pokemon together. The purpose being that if you beat that Pokemon together, you have a chance of catching that special Pokemon. Showing experiences like this is encompassing. It shows that, again, the environment affects the player just as much as what's on the screen. Sometimes storyboards are just what's happening on the screen. The player, you know, taps on a gym. What does that transition look like? Let's storyboard that out. And any sort of like interactions that they do afterwards. Nicole was talking about this earlier, but you don't always have to go into the engine, like into Unity or into any sort of like prototyping software to communicate something. You can totally do it in paper prototypes, in whiteboarding, or as a storyboard. As long as you're communicating the thing. I do a lot of whiteboarding. Like at least once a week, I sit down with my team to just whiteboard together. And we do it virtually as well. We use Figma right now. But when we were pre-pandemic times, we were still doing whiteboarding, you know, on an actual whiteboard. I encourage everyone on my team to participate in this. And it's really just to make sure that we're all aligning on the thing that we're building, again, why we're building it that way, and all the different screens that it's going to take up or all the different considerations we have to make. It's great team building, but it's also making sure that everyone's involved with their different types of expertise. And then once you align, we are building prototypes. There we go. You know, we plug this all into the game. We have a front-end engineer work with us to get it to work properly. And, you know, all that writing, that entire process, all that storytelling eventually becomes the feature that is in the game. And these are two examples of things that I worked on with Wheel of Fortune. This was a hot streak, a special type of feature that happens while you're like solving the board or the puzzle. And this is another one, a new type of tournament mode in the game with a completely new type of gameplay. And, you know, this is in the game right now. People have been loving it. And it's just guessing like multiple 4-letter words, and you have a time limit to do it. But once that prototype's in and you test it, everything's good, I work very closely with user research as well, or sometimes I do the testing myself. We go ahead and ship it. You do take a look at like analytics and make sure that things are working properly, and you iterate on the fly after you ship. But that really is like kind of the process there. There we go. So that aside, especially because I work in AR specifically, we're still trying to figure out like what AR is eventually going to become. A lot of AR games or AR experiences that are out there are still very somewhat superficial. They're getting better though. They're getting way, way, way better. But when we look at the future, we're still trying to figure out exactly what's going to evolve into. One thing that you're going to be hearing a lot is the concept of the metaverse. It is very popular right now. Everyone's talking about it and what it's going to be. And Facebook, you know, just completely embraced it now and is kind of like even changing their whole brand to be part of the metaverse. And when people think about the metaverse or are talking about the metaverse, they talk a lot, you know, maybe about Ready Player One. They're talking about systems where you are actually completely in this virtual world. And they don't really talk much about the world that we already live in. And that's where I think we should be going with the metaverse, making sure that we are accounting for the environment and accounting for how the things around us are part of us as much as that digital world that we're aiming towards. And I think they can be, you know, joined together. This was an article that was written by our CEO at Niantic. You know, again, every time that the metaverse is being talked about, it is talked about in the sense of like escapism or like this digital world that everyone's just going to flock to, and they will live in that digital world, not thinking about the world they already live in. And Niantic wants to take a different approach about the metaverse. We want the digital world to enhance the real world and what we're living with right now. We don't want people to just, or at least I speak for myself, I don't want people to just live in a digital world. And there's different concepts of what that could look like. But as we are going in that direction, you know, there's a lot of systems that need to build up. Like we need to be able to track the world around us. We need to be able to understand what's the difference between a floor, a chair, a tree. So much so that there are systems that we're currently working on that are able to distinguish, you know, this is a building, this is the sky, this is a tree, this is the ground, water, you know, this is a chair. You would think that that would be built out already, but it's still kind of being built out right now. And there's like image recognition that's happening as well. I know Google's handling that side of things where like if you put an image into like Google search or something, it will show you what is in that image. But it's a lot of AI work that needs to be done. And eventually we want to get to a point where, yes, we are playing with other people in this shared digital experience while still being in the real world. This is right in line with, you know, Niantic's pillars. We want to make sure that people are still engaging with each other, and social is so important to the types of games that we build. Oops, sorry. Oh. And I'm just gonna fast forward very quickly. And I know that we're also working on experiences with like the HoloLens, especially with the Pokemon franchise that, you know, we're building with, working with. Being able to interact with your Pokemon in different ways using the HoloLens. But again, we're still engaging in the real world. It's not completely just in this digital virtual world.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. And it's really great to see the intersection between AR and gaming specifically. And I appreciate you being able to dance around what you can and cannot discuss with your work. We all know that feeling.
Yes, NDAs.
Yes, I love friend DAs. So I feel like we're bordering on that right now. But yeah, thank you for sharing that stuff and the incredible stuff that you're pioneering, and also going into some technical things. I think talking about GDDs is so relevant here, why you would build something out, making that strong case for it, especially if any of our participants are looking for future publishing deals, being very clear about all those types of mechanics. Any questions? We have time for just one or two, and we're going to have to skip over our break and jump right into another talk, but I do want to leave Q&A for a moment. I was also thinking, not to call you out, Jean, but I felt like you and Coralie probably have a lot in common with your work as game designers. Does this overlap at all?
I understand a lot of things you say on Patchnap, and we learn that now in the game design industry. And thank you so much for what you're saying about metaverse and dystopian. I don't know, vision. It can be. I think. I hope not like you, but thank you so much. Yeah. I don't have a lot of questions, but just thank you.
Yeah, I thought there just might be an overlap between the two of you. I also really agree with seriously looking at the dystopian vision of mixed reality. And I understand why it's provocative for narratives about the future, but I don't think that it benefits anyone. Actually, I was in a discussion with someone from Microsoft yesterday afternoon, and we were talking about how technology is neutral. It's what we do with it. So thinking about it as well in that regard. Any other quick questions? And also Coralie, of course.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I want to ask you if you organize some playtests with players and how it works and how you take the results and after with the game and the other in the team.
I will be as quick as I can with this.
Yes.
So usually we either built out some sort of demo that's very, very indicative of what we will eventually build in the game. It's going to be almost a one-to-one. And sometimes I work with user research to find participants. Sometimes I'm the one that has to do it. So I will, there's a bunch of different platforms you can use out there. There's Playtest Cloud, user interviews, user testing is another one as well, to help you find participants and also let you put whatever it is that you're testing on a safe platform so that people won't just take screenshots of what it is that you're building. With, we make the demo or some sort of build where we can have people actually test it either remotely or in person, in-house. I do surveys to bring in participants based on the type of player that we are looking to test it on. And we refer back to our player personas to try to identify, like, well, is it someone that plays this type of game or identifies as this type of player, et cetera, et cetera. We bring in maybe 5 to 6 participants. Usually I like to do anywhere between half an hour to an hour session. I sit down before the session starts. I sit down with the team to clearly identify what we're testing and what are the, almost like a script, a little bit of like the different things that I want the player or the participant to interact with. Like, I want you to build a base. I want you to go attack somebody. I try to be a little bit vague because I want them to figure out with the information that they have on the screen how they can do that thing. If I see that they're, struggling with it, then I'll kind of like step in, but more often than not, like, I just let them do the thing. As that's happening, I will be taking notes on my end. And also I am live streaming everything that they're doing to the rest of the team, either through Hangouts, Zoom, or any sort of other platform where they can see what's going on, but the tester or the player can't see can't see them. Through that platform, let's say if it's Hangouts, I encourage the team to ask me questions if they want me to dig deeper into anything, but it's really just giving them visibility on the process and letting them actually be part of it rather than just like waiting for results later on. At the end of every session, I will come back to the team and we'll probably have like a whiteboard or something that includes the player, the type of player, their age, etc., and the different things that they ran into, both positive and negative, about the session and about the feature that we're testing. We will go over that for like 15 minutes before the next tester comes in. At the end of everything, we compile all that data into either a quick report with recommendations on what we should do next. I try to make it very clear to my game designers. I know you're going to see a lot of things you want to fix. Do not touch anything, please, unless it's something that's very, very broken. But we need to make sure that everyone is going through, the same experience, because we need to be able to compare it and reach the appropriate solution. If it is just like this button is the wrong color, I'll let them make the change. But if it's something more like foundational to the feature, I don't want them touching anything. Usually if I am working with user research, they will do a more comprehensive report. But since I'm typically, I do testing, but I'm not a user researcher, really. I just do a quick report, a quick summary. Sometimes I'll even put together a video reel of everything that happened, both good and bad, 5-minute video. For those that weren't able to watch the live sessions, they can at least see like those highlights. That's pretty much it. And we compensate testers always.
Thank you so much, and bravo for your whole career. It's very impressive.
Thanks. Anyone else?
I think, oh, go ahead.
No, the only other thing I was going to say, you can follow me on Twitter. It's really the best place you can follow me on. It's Korapiki. I'm on LinkedIn as well, but Twitter is kind of where I engage more publicly.
I think it's really crucial to find, for any experience, whether it's an immersive art experience or a game, to find player testing groups. And yes, it can be family, but more so there are wonderful groups all over the world and in most major cities where there's a game presence of people that you can just have to come in. Has anyone ever done anything like that for their projects, actually done user testing in real time? Okay, Antoine has. I'm not sure if I saw any other hands. I think that is really important. And even though, okay, Jean, thank you for saying that. Given that only 2 of you seem to have experience doing it, I think it's something to flag as you get further down the line in production, is making it clear that you're either tapping into a community that will give you honest answers, maybe recording them as well, always with consent. And then also, if you don't have that community already built in or know where to find it, looking into possibly like indie game communities back in Paris. I don't think that you'll be at a stage in production when you arrive in New York that'll be relevant yet, but definitely checking in throughout your production process, because if you're not meeting your users where they're at, then you're not necessarily making something that they can use. So just a very important keynote here that I think is really core from Corley's talk. But that being said, if there are, Nicole made a point, user testing is like a windshield wipers on your car. Suddenly when the game becomes clear, your user testing wipes away old assumptions. And I think that is core. Thank you both for kind of jumping in and supporting each other's work. It's so neat to know that you've collaborated. I was unaware of that, so this is beautiful that you spoke on the same day. Thank you both. Again, feel free to stay. Lauren Kaysen has just joined us a few minutes ago, and her talk is next. I'm not sure if you all know each other from the industry, but her work is absolutely beautiful. We connected a few months ago, And I'm really excited to hear what she has to say, working as a creative director and creative technologist. So any other questions for Coralie, feel free to write in the chat or contact her directly, of course, for Nicole. And with that, I'm going to pass it to Lauren.
They're super quick user interviews for you to find people, and accessible games if you want specifically folks with different types of disabilities to test your game, and for you to be able to test for accessibility. They have very specific groups that they tap into.
I love that. I'm writing this down. We have a running Discord for this program, so I'll drop that link in there.
Coralie does some amazing advocacy work, for sure, for sure. Anyway, I need to bounce to another meeting. Thank you so much for, it's been great, great sharing the afternoon or evening with you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye. All right, Lauren, it's all you officially. Thank you.
Cool. Hi, friends. All right, let's do the Zoom dance where we share screens and make sure that that works.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Let's plan. Are you seeing a big robot?
Yes.
All right. So hi, I'm Lauren Kaysen, and I am an artist and a creative technologist based out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I mostly, sometimes I do other stuff, but mostly I work within the space of XR and general emerging technology. I've had a pretty eclectic career. I've made work and worked at lots of different places. Here's the obligatory slide of logos. And I recently started my own very small XR studio with my co-founder, Sam Jones. And some of the soul searching that you do when you start a studio is obviously, like what do you do? Like, what does your company do? Like, what's your point of view? What are you making? And I think that my point of view is this pile of trash. And when I think about what I really want XR to do, what I see its potential as a technology, why I want to work with it, why I come back to it, I come back to this pile of trash and how it made me feel. So this pile of trash is not actually a pile of trash. It is a meticulously painted bronze sculpture by Gavin Turk. I saw this in several of his other pieces in a gallery in London, and they were all on the floor, these immaculate sculptures of trash and precious metals. And there's like a cigarette butt, there was a foam to go container, and they were so beautiful. They were so perfectly sculpted and painted, and I was totally mesmerized. And when I left the gallery, this funny thing happened where for weeks after, I was like obsessed with every damn piece of trash that I saw, like on the subway, on the street, blocking. Every piece of trash was just like screaming out. I couldn't see anything else. And I got really fascinated by this shift that had happened in my perception. I was seeing things in my world that were totally invisible to me before. Even though the visual stimulus was always there was definitely trash. I didn't see it before though, and now I saw it everywhere. And I had this new enhanced perception of my world. And I was like, whoa, I think that I want to do that thing that is happening in my brain. I think that is what I want to do. And someone told me, there's actually a word for that, kind of, which is apophenia, which is like a crossed wires meaning making. So if you're seeing Jesus in your toast, or you're obsessed with piles of trash for a couple weeks, like you might be experiencing apophenia. And that put some lights off in my brain. And I was like, games are really good at this. I think it's one of the subtle things that I like about working on video games is, after playing The Witness, I was seeing puzzles everywhere. If any of you have played that game, I think game designers are inherently very good at creating this feeling of apophenia. And I had personally worked on a lot of projects that were really about perceptual shifts. So in Monument Valley, we were working with lots of non-Euclidean, multi-stable images and constructing these worlds and these puzzles that were really about challenging the way that you perceive that image and thus that world to work. And I think that actually helped me understand why VR never excited me that much. So I worked on some VR games like Luna, I was very proud of, and I think it's super cool to build totally new worlds for people to inhabit. But I was sort of realizing, I don't think I want to build new worlds. I'm pretty invested in the real world. I think I want to make things that make people feel invested in that too. Like the real world is like pretty messed up. I'm not arguing that escapism doesn't have its place. I 100% want to play video games and escape and go somewhere else sometimes, especially after the past couple of years that we've all just lived through. But I kept coming back to the trash and how much my experience of the actual real world got shifted. And that's how I got excited about mixed reality, because it's all about this world, right? Like if it's good. So if my phone is this magic window into other worlds that I can peer into, and then VR is like magic glasses that I can put on, and then they transport me to another world, like this is going to be the magic glasses into this world, right? Like I want those glasses. I want the world I'm in to feel really, really precious and really meaningful. And like Jesus is on all of my toast. All the trash is made of gold. And I think like maybe AR can do that. And that sort of started my journey into mixed reality. It turns out like turning trash into gold in your brain is actually really hard to do. But I'm going to talk about some of my first attempts at that and like where I want to start pushing next, and some of the most recent projects that I did to try and bring people that feeling, and to try specifically not to displace their world they are in, but to enhance and alter their perception of this very precious and singular world that we're all inhabiting together. So with that, I marched off into Silicon Valley with my big ideas, and I kind of fumbled around, and that was that for a while. And I started learning how to build stuff for mixed reality headsets. And after a while, I left Silicon Valley. That was like a short stint, and I came to New Mexico to Meow Wolf to be their XR creative director. And Meow Wolf is this once art collective, now large scale immersive exhibit creator. And let me tell you, I was really, really excited about Meow Wolf. They have that perceptual shift thing like down. They are so good at it. If you've been there and if you have walked through this fridge, you know how good they are at shifting your perception of the architecture of reality.
Does everyone know what? Sorry to interrupt. Does everyone know what Meow Wolf is? Is anyone familiar or unfamiliar with it? Can you take a brief moment to talk about Meow Wolf, and I'm going to drop.
Yeah. So Meow Wolf it was originally an art collective. Now they make these large scale immersive exhibits. And there's 3 of them now. There's one in Vegas, Denver, and Santa Fe. And the original Santa Fe exhibit was this bowling alley that a bunch of artists got together. And then they built a house, like a house inside the bowling alley, which is this giant immersive experience. I definitely would recommend, if you ever find yourself in the Southwest, like check out Meow Wolf. But they were like, we think we might want to do technology. And I was like, I can help you. So I got to work with them for a while. And they already had a lot of connected spaces. They had a lot of like RFIDs and lights and stuff that you could plug into. So super excited to sort of get to play with these spaces that they build. And the first thing that I directed for them was this experience called the Garage. And the Garage was an immersive play done using Magic Leaps that took place in Neighborhood Autos. We had a warehouse in Santa Fe that was set up like a mechanic shop, but everything was not quite as it seems. So the mechanics there had some other things in store for you beyond your 3,500 mile oil change. Side note, this garage was actually next door to a real auto shop. And people would accidentally walk in our back door looking for their mechanic and see like a 10-foot mech and be like, what is going on? But anyway, the experience consisted of about 10 little mini XR experiences connected to various pieces of machinery or artwork throughout the warehouse. And there's a lot of things I learned here. And one of the first was you really need to contextualize your hardware. We renamed the Magic Leaps. We gave them a story. They weren't Magic Leaps. They were the constant positioning system, or compost for short. And I think there's two things that narratively placing your hardware can do. The first is, I think it's your first little invitation to play. My partner's 4-year-old insists that the truck is not a truck, it is actually a plane. We're co-pilots, and the dinner table is a magical bus to Alaska. And if you've spent time around a kid in the sort of like 3 to 5 range who's always in that imagination space, it can be super expanding. And it's no great leap for a child to see treasure in a pile of trash, so it might be for an adult. And I think inviting people at the very beginning in a small way to come in with you and be in that imagination and that pretend space can help set people up for that right mental space. The other thing it can do is invite in those who might feel stupid about the technology. One of the biggest barriers I've seen with first-time users of a headset is this enormous fear that they should already know how it works, and that if they don't, and if you ask for help, they're gonna look not very smart. I once had a guest go through an entire experience with their headset off because they were too nervous to tell us that it was broken, and they thought, well, maybe just the chromatic aberration that I'm seeing in the headset is what they mean when they say holograms. But if you're saying, no, this is not a human technology, you would never have seen this before. No one expects you to understand what this thing is. It can be easier for those people to join in and play, and also to ask you for help. Another big learning was ambient set dressing is great. Digital set dressing is great. When they come together, they can be a lot more, and it doesn't have to be as complicated as you think. So the garage was chosen as one of the top XR experiences of 2019 by Forbes. And the journalist who gave it that distinction told me the reason it got it was because of this experience, which was our trash portal. Big surprise, no trash from Lauren. We had this big platform in the room that we just couldn't move. It was like attached to the floor. So we were like, all right, well, we got a bunch of trash from a dump, and we just piled it onto the platform, and then we put a portal over it in the Magic Leap, like nothing complicated. It's just a portal. And we assigned an actor to it who would tell you, yeah, that's the trash portal. You don't need to worry about the trash portal. And you didn't. You moved on to the next experience. That was a whole interaction. But it implied this whole other world, then all these other things that could be happening, and the brevity of that experience was like such an important world building moment. And I don't think it would have been as good as if we had dragged it out. So not every interaction has to be super complicated. It can be a pile of trash and like a totally still asset. And having things that are simple but seem like they can have a lot of depth can take you really far. But the biggest thing that I learned from directing the garage was placing your AR experiences, and that the biggest impact might not be where you think it is. So our big finale of the garage was the mech, and it was the mechanic would take you over to this like 10-foot amazing mech. You would touch it, and solenoids would go like dong, 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 and they'd fire, and you'd have this like avatar moment where it chooses you, and we have this like really slick interface with glowing buttons and beep boop stuff, and you got to like travel the galaxy. And that was where we really invested on our visuals and making sure the Magic Leap experience was really right. And it, it was really tight. It was the longest experience in the garage. Do you know what people did the second they got up on the mech? They took off their headsets, pretty much to a T, every single person. Which I was like, okay, I can kind of understand. It's already a pretty overwhelming experience. But you know where people ended up spending the most time in this play? This box. It was a box that was in the room because it was there already when we got to the warehouse. And we were like, well, I'll put some stuff in the box. We'll put like a space deer in the box and people might look at it for a minute. Between the mech and the rocket car, but people were totally obsessed with the deer in this little box. And I was like, what is going on here? We spent all this time on like a giant robot and people are in love with the box from Home Depot. So here's what I think was going on. We talk a lot about, I was talking about perception shifts earlier, and that, perception is some combination of like a stimuli and then my personal mental model for that stimuli, right? So I see a cat, I have mental models for cat behavior. If the cat starts flying, something in this Venn diagram's got to change. I'm going to generally have expectations about what a box is going to do. I know how wooden boxes work. I've got a general idea of what they might contain. It's a box. But with a mech, most people walking around in the world don't really have a mental model for what riding a mech is going to be like. There's got to be some sort of expectation for you to subvert. There can't just be 100% new information. Whereas with the box, if a box has behaviors that don't fit my mental model of boxes, that's interesting. My brain is like, oh, I need to pay attention to this. So one of the principles I try to subscribe to in my work now is, don't necessarily put the most beautiful XR experience that you have on the most beautiful thing that you have. You need contrast. You need the contrast of the mundane and the extraordinary, of the expected and the unexpected. It's a pile of trash, but it's made of gold. It's a box that contains entire worlds. It's a fridge that's also a portal. And sometimes you don't need a 10-foot mech. Sometimes you just need a box. And I spent 2.5 years with Meow. We did a lot of really cool, super weird stuff. And then Snapchat approached me and they said, hey, we're launching this new headset. It's untethered. It works really, really well outside. We'd like you to be one of the artists whose work we launched with. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds super cool. And I knew, okay, I learned a lot at Meow Wolf about how to bridge that gap between the physical and the digital and how to do those really, really interesting perceptual shifts. And now with this added challenge that it's going to be outside. It's no longer in the super controlled environment the way a Meow Wolf exhibit is, but it's the great outdoors. So for a minute, this is like a little bit of a tangent, but I got really stuck on the idea of like an AR weather vane, which I still want to make this. So if you're like a weather person, or who I should talk to make this, like, let's talk. But it would be like that each cardinal direction would be a tracker. You'd walk in the direction the wind was pointing, and there was like, you'd feel the wind on your back. But anyway, Snapchat was like, this is like a little bit weirder than we were looking for. And I was like, fair, okay. And a friend of mine was like, aren't you like really obsessed with those road signs? And I was like, oh my God, the road signs. The road signs are the perfect anchor for an experience. So historic road markers, no matter where you're based in the US, you've probably seen something like these. The New Mexico historic markers, they're one of the older state programs, but a lot of states have them. They came out with the idea of the Great American Road Trip. So towns were trying to get people to stop in them, to create a reason to drive through your small town instead of that one over there. And there's sort of these really lovely, archaic, wonderful things that give you a view into the past in a lot of different ways. Both in terms of what the content on the sign, and also things like, where are they placed? Why would you put it here in 1940 versus, somewhere else? And the architecture of driving through New Mexico actually changed a lot when Route 66 was built. So some of these signs are actually in ghost towns now, from before that highway got built, which I think is pretty cool. But they also have a lot going for them from an XR perspective and from the perspective of some of the things that I learned doing the garage. So from the XR perspective, they're in these really, really big pullouts, right? So you're supposed to stop at them. It's not like a lot of other signage architecture where you're supposed to be driving past at 75 miles an hour. They're really big and they're really high contrast. So they're pretty easy to actually track as well in terms of a target tracker. and the information on them is all in the public domain. And I just love them. I love them. And then from the perspective of continuing the learnings I got from Meow these felt like the perfect extension of the box. Here are these things that are already a part of the architecture of driving on an old state road. And you probably just drive past it. You probably don't notice it. But if they somehow become these magical portals into some new kind of magic, maybe people would start seeing them again. And if you could bring that, bring magic to a highway sign in Napola, I think that would be pretty cool. So I knew I wanted to work with these signs, and I saw 3 possible approaches for the project. So the first was just expand the educational content. How do you bring what the sign is trying to teach you into the world? Make it immersive, make it really, really about that place. The other, this was a little more subtle, was the idea of a hidden layer. That there's a lot of stories that aren't going to get a government plaque. There's actually a lot of stories that the government plaque tells you that it probably really shouldn't. So Oñate was a very famously cruel conquistador who committed horrible violent crimes against the indigenous people here in New Mexico. He has a historic marker, which is regularly defaced. What would it look like to replace his marker with a story about why that land is important to Pueblo people instead? These land has so many stories that could be told in a lot of different ways. Another example is the town of Taos. The Taos marker is honestly really boring. It talks about the population size and the governor, but then like Taos has this legend of the Taos hum, which I'll talk about later. But like New Mexico is weird. It has some of the best stories and legends and people, and most of them aren't going to get shiny plaques. But like, what if those plaques were the doorway into this alternate history, right? This other way of looking at the world. And then lastly, something really cool that New Mexico did was they have a program for women's historic markers. So there's over 100 markers in New Mexico dedicated to all these really amazing New Mexican women, like the first female Black soldier, and like union organizers and bandits and artists and like early sex workers, rights fighters. I wanted to approach the project more as a curatorial one and pair modern New Mexican women artists with historic figures who had a marker and have them create work about those women where you'd be able to experience it on site at their markers. So you could go on this road trip following women's markers across the state, do all the cool New Mexico stuff, do White Sands, do Carlsbad, but also have this massive immersive storytelling experience with different generations of women, both the historical ones and the current, in these highway pullouts. So instead of looking at the brief and being like, Snapchat asked you to make one experience, maybe like pick one, I was like, nah, man, I'm gonna do all 3. It's gonna be fine. So March was like a really fun month where I slept a lot and I felt really good about my life choices. But I made some cool art. So the first one that I built was the Caldera experience. So the Caldera experience is based on the Valle Grande historic marker. It would let you see a topographical map of the Valle Caldera, this 13-mile wide volcanic caldera that formed in an eruption about 1.25 million years ago. So you'd see this little educational visualization and hear a story, and then you'd look out over the caldera and you'd see the mountains labeled, and you'd be able to sort of look between the mountains and this visualization and hopefully get a sense of the scale of that ancient eruption. Now, this was the first outdoor AR experience that I built, and I learned a lot here. First thing I learned is I needed a fake sign to work with at home. I needed something to stand in front of and walk around to really have a physical facsimile of the thing. So I made this big fake road sign for the studio out of foam core. If I could go back, I would actually make it a lot more accurate to the historic marker, because things like the brown color and the reflectivity of the material really would have had been a better to have a good idea of in the studio, but even just having the physical object made a really big difference in how I built the experience. And then the other thing I would change, if I could go back to this one, is I would approach it really, really differently. I think there's so much to learn here that I still really want to explore. Building an experience for this thing is not the same as building an experience for this. And all the thinking that I had done at that point was around the scale of this. It was around a road sign and augmenting some, like a thing that's not very beautiful by itself. Like I think they're very beautiful, but I think generally, like it's not the Via Caldera. And like, what did I learn at Meow Wolf? Don't put your XR on the most beautiful stuff. Can't compete with a mech. Can't compete with nature. And I don't want to compete with nature. Actually, I question, you know, if I could go back, would I do a different road sign and do the educational experience on one of the weird road signs on a dirt highway? Like maybe just don't put your tech on top of this. But I do think there is a world where XR could possibly be good in a place like this, regardless of my like puritanical, like pearl clutching about putting tech in nature. You know, this is already how we're experiencing it. Our devices go with us when we go into the natural world. And like maybe this time around with technology, like instead of fighting it and being like, don't do it, maybe we're gonna say like, okay, this is the world. This is what we're gonna do with our stuff. Because it's phones today, it's headsets tomorrow. We have the ability right now to think about and to design this experience and to hopefully make it a little bit better and more connected than this one. And I think ideally any XR experience that happens in nature that builds, it's, you know, it's like a meditation, right? It would ground you in that place. It would put you in a good headspace. It would pull you into the place you're in more. And you know that it's over and you're present and you're looking with new eyes. So these are some of the sort of things that I've been thinking about with XR and nature in the future. So that was the Caldera. The next experience that I built was called Anita, and this was based around Anita Scott Coleman's sign in Silver City. So Anita Scott Coleman, she was a Black poet and essayist who she lived in New Mexico around the turn of the century, and she wrote a lot about the Black experience of the Southwest, which is a super interesting history. You can look up the history of the Buffalo Soldiers and Black homesteaders, but her writing was unique in that it was really associated with the Harlem Renaissance, even though she lived like in Silver City, New Mexico, not in Harlem. And so for this, I teamed up with and I worked with local poet, laureate of Albuquerque, Ebony Isis Booth, who did a recording and a performance of one of Anita Scott Coleman's poems called Portraiture. And the poem speaks about tall trees as a metaphor for the strength of Black men. So you have Ebony's like very moving performance that you experience in this immersive forest that fades in while viewing these portraits of Anita herself. And I think this was the most successful piece in the project. I think walking up to that sign and reading what is some pretty dry text about her life in this like bit of sidewalk in Silver City that's like not particularly extraordinary, and having this like really, really beautiful performance playing out around you and hearing Anita's words on site through the voice of this modern icon of the Albuquerque poetry scene, like 100% best part of the project. Another little process thing that I learned working on this one, and I do this all the time now, was do a quick and dirty photogrammetry scan. It can do wonders when you're building. So I just use like Scaniverse on my phone so I can block out a scene and have a sense of scale. It's so helpful, and it helps you also cheat really well when you're trying to block experiences out. So right now this is another little change. I'm working on something right now that's based around the size of a kitchen. And the way that I have cheated it is I took a scan with myself in it wearing glasses. So I'm like, okay, I can just know my eye height is about here, and that like that experience, like stuff is like about here. And so I'll just put the camera to start the world origin at the point where my eye height is, and then I can place all that stuff and it'll be about accurate. So Scaniverse, use photogrammetry. It's so simple now. And the last experience that I built for this project was the Taos home. So I talked about that historic marker earlier, the Taos Wind, that is, it's like there's, you know, the governor founded this in such and such year. But there's this really interesting legend, the Taos hum, which is this mythic low buzzing sound that 2% of the population say they can hear in the town of Taos. And so this was an audio reactive visualizer where you got to sort of be inside of the sound. Which actually led me to one of the most recent pieces that I worked on with my co-founder, Sam Jones. And this was an outdoor AR art walk for the rail yard district of Santa Fe. This came together pretty quickly. So we were like, you know, put a blob on it. But in this piece, Sam and I went to the rail yard, which is it's an area of Santa Fe. We spent some time there, and there were all these drum circles and things that happened there. So we built on some of the audio work that I did for the Taos experience, and we made this piece audio reactive to the environment. And so if you went there at the right time of day, you would see the art dance, not because we programmed it to do that, but because it's reacting to the space that it's in. And that's another thing here. I'll just play this for a second. So you can hear the drum circle in the background. Hopefully you can hear it. So this is sort of the amalgamation of my journey thus far, and it's definitely continuing right now. My studio has some projects. I'm applying for a lot of like artist residencies. I want to keep exploring what this technology looks like. And like, if you know, like what's cool, what are the cool artist residencies? Do you want to work on this stuff? Are you working on this stuff? Do you have like cool ideas? Like, I want to talk to you. I'm like really interested in a large scale understanding of land, of like whose land you're on and the history of land that you're given or you're on at any given moment. I'm really interested in like more stuff about signage, all that sort of stuff. And if I can leave you with a thought, you guys are going into some like this new technology that's like really, really cool. It's really, really exciting. But I think a lot of the work that I see coming out on this technology, like on headsets, and especially sort of waveguide headsets, misses out for me on what makes it special. It's not VR. I'm not being transported somewhere else. It's not a phone. I'm not looking into like my magic little glass rectangle. My eyes are up. I'm looking out into the world that I'm in. I'm in this room or this mountain or wherever it is. And that is so revolutionary for a piece of technology, that it is about like here, that it is grounded for wherever it is that you are. And I hope as you all sort of embark on constructing the future, that you'll take that thought with you of not just, you know, how do I build this cool world and a waveguide headset and immerse people in it, but how do I use this thing to immerse people and give them new views on the world they are already in, which I think is a much more interesting question. You know, help people see Jesus in their toast and treasure in their trash. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that was a really cool talk, especially discussing some of your very recent projects and kind of similar to Coralie, being able to slightly discuss what you have coming up or what you're working on now. I think it is really crucial to look around at the stories that are with us every day and how we can engage with them or find inspiration from them, whether it's like your road signs, or we were talking a little bit yesterday as a group, the stories that impact us and how do you shape those, or how do you fit them in or tell them in a new and original way. I, per usual, have questions, but I'll open it to the group very quickly. Does anyone here have questions right off the bat? I know it's a lot of really, like, we've also done 3 hours of just back-to-back talks.
That is so much.
I know. Any questions?
I have a question, maybe.
Go for it.
I want to know how you you budget your project and how you get money for each project you work?
Yeah, so I've been lucky thus far this year that like a couple people have just approached and been like, would you like some money? So I've gotten a lot of funding from Snapchat. I got one of their big grants, which was they did the Ghost program, and they've funded a couple of my projects, and that is not super uncommon right now in terms of a funding model, where if you're a creator and you have interesting things that you're making and an interesting voice and point of view, a lot of these companies, they have the technology, but like they don't have any way to sort of explain to the world, like, this is what we might use it for, this is why you should care. And so there are like a fair, I think there's somebody here from Niantic, or you just spoke to somebody at Niantic, it's not a grant program, but they just announced like an investment program for similar sorts of things as the Ghost program. There's those sorts of grants and those sorts of sort of early investment things are out there, and they're not super hard to get. Like they're difficult, but it's not like applying for like a National Arts Foundation grant, or National Art. It's a lot more people sort of going into the same pot. So yeah, there's a good amount of money out there for people who have like a different perspective on things right now about what XR looks like in the future.
And
Thank
Coralie
you.
just posted the links down there if you do want to look specifically into Niantic. And Snapchat, I'm sure several of you are aware, specifically those of you working in immersive, about what Snapchat's been doing and how it's been breaking barriers left and right, and the incredible
Coralie,
stuff.
thank you for the Unreal Mega Grants. That's a great program. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No. It's also really. Does everyone know about the Unreal Mega Grants one too? Okay, Jean. So that's a huge pot of money, up to 500,000, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
For different projects, and they can be gaming, they can be mixed reality, they can be both together. Something to consider there, as we keep emphasizing in these talks, especially looking at the US market, grants are a huge way of getting funding. And to Lauren's point, and Lauren, please, clarify the following statement. She did years of prototyping to get to the point where companies were calling her and saying, like, we love your stuff, here's a check. But again, emphasizing something that has come up thematically in several talks, which is you have to get to a point where you're actually showing some version of a thing and getting that in the hands of someone, far past just a pitch deck. The pitch deck will get you so far, and then it's actually showing the thing in whatever version to make that funding a reality.
Yeah, which I would love to expand on that. There's a saying in Silicon Valley, which I actually don't like very much because I think it devalues the work of people who are not engineers. But the saying is like code talks. And I think what people are getting at with that is that like having a thing, being able to show people something. It doesn't actually have to be code though. So like when I worked at Apple, I used to joke that my job was doing sci-fi theater for executives, where we were working on things that were like maybe 10 years out. This stuff doesn't exist yet. There's no silicon. And so we had to figure out how to sort of do the theater of what's it going to be like to do this? And how do we create the facsimile of that experience as best as we can? And sometimes that's better. Like you don't need to be able to fully build like whatever the thing is. The number of people who have headsets, the number of people who have this, this technology, very low. The way most people are going to experience your work is going to be on the internet, like as a video. So if you're good at being like, okay, well, I can't actually program this thing, but I can like take a photogrammetry scan of my, me with the headset and like kind of guess where it should be so I can, get the shot, or get really good at After Effects. Like if you feel like you have good ideas about the future of XR, like you don't have to be like this amazing like machine learning engineer. If you can figure out how to kind of facsimile it up in After Effects, like, and put it on Twitter. I was just talking to Steve Lucas from Qualcomm a couple of days ago, and he was like, nobody's putting stuff on Twitter. Nobody is putting prototypes. Like, there's a lot of people who have opinions, but very few people who have like a visual or something to back it up to be like, this is what we think it should look like. This is what the future might be. So if you're a person doing that right now, if you are putting stuff out there, like, you know, like a 10-second clip of a mock-up of a UI of anything, then you're in a small pool. So there's a lot of opportunity, and don't feel like you have to be an engineer, you have to be able to code it. Like, you just have to figure out how to take people there.
I think that those are absolutely great points. And especially, you know, it doesn't have to be a fully fleshed out thing. It can be something quite simple or rudimentary. It's just communicating it. And all of our participants, you know, work in the arts or work in media professionally, but in terms of creating their own works, I'm actually curious from different people, particularly just thinking about such as like Melanie's career or Manny's career, working in the arts. And I'm just remembering this from day one when we did introductions. In your process professionally with your clients, how often do you have to like do a lot of storyboarding, or is it sort of like they're just trusting you to come up with something and then you come back to them with a finished product?
So it's been like a little bit of both. Like, it kind of depends on the client. One of the things that, well, so like working with Snapchat, one of the things like I've liked so much about working with them is they're very open-ended. So like there's a project that's going to be announced at Lens Fest in a couple of days that I just did for them, where basically I was like, I want to go to this place. I want to make something about that place. I don't know what it's going to be yet. And they were like, okay, that's fine. But definitely I've also had clients who are like, you know, we need the precise storyboards. Like, we're gonna like so it really depends. It also depends on the size of the thing that you're making. People are going to be a lot more willing to be like play a little fast and loose with something that's sort of like, you know, under 10,000. And when you get into the epic mega grants, like, you're definitely going to need like special storyboards and stuff like that. So I think it probably mostly depends on the size of the project.
Thank you for insight into that. Also, in talking about doing experiential work, this came up a little bit in a talk yesterday, but bringing people into the experience far before they ever put the headset on. You talked a lot about that with the garage. How would you also recommend doing that for maybe traditional video gameplay? Because we do have some participants here who are making traditional video games. And so understanding how do you build that world to get people invested before they even start engaging?
Yeah, I have been thinking about that so much this week. So I'm actually in LA right now on like a little bit of a research trip about like immersive theater and escape rooms, and just like, how are people doing this in the physical world? I feel like the biggest insight I've gotten is that like lighting is so important, that all of these experiences are so much about like, how is it lit? And I feel like that's like a thing that video games ends up not doing a good job of a lot of times. Like we get really into our rendering and all of that, but that cinematic lighting and like how things are placed in the storytelling that you do with light is super important in terms of how you experience things. Like I went to Universal and I cried on the Pets ride. And I'm 100% sure that my emotions were manipulated by light, by like the lighting sequences that they had. So I like underestimating your lights, and then also sound design. I think anybody who is an audio designer or a musician here who has worked on a game knows the struggle that is everybody designs everything and they'll come in at the very last second, like, and they'll be like, oh, we got like 2 weeks. So can you do the sound? Can you sound now? And like, that is just not how it works. You need to be thinking about your audio design from the very absolute beginning, to have a really effective experience, I think.
There are actually some amazing, and I'm sure some people have seen these here, but some amazing talks on light and audio design specifically for gaming, and how if you, and it's so much about intonation. I'm forgetting the guy who did it, but there's a TED talk on it. He's a game designer, and he uses a reference, I think, of red, and how when you see red in this game, it's pointing you in a direction, even if it's a subtle thing. And I think it's kind of a game where you just explore a world, but if you see red, that's the general direction that you're supposed to go to lead through the main narrative. And it comes up in these really subtle and sometimes really distinctive ways, and how he uses that in terms of lighting or the color of an object or whatever it is. And if you realize it, it's so obvious, but if you don't, it's still kind of gently manipulating you to consider it. You also brought up very briefly The Witness at the beginning. And does anyone know the game The Witness by, isn't it James Blow is the creator?
Yeah, I think that's him, yeah.
Yeah.
Or Jonathan Blow.
Jonathan Blow, yes. So I saw two hands. Was it Gina Manny? Yeah.
Sorry.
I was looking at the participants. I was seeing who might know it. And also Melanie. Oh, a couple people do. Okay, more than a couple. Yeah, I was blown away. I've never played The Witness, but I've gone to academic lectures about The Witness and how it was created, and all the subversive plot lines that exist within it and perceptual shifts, as you were talking about, Lauren. And I think it's a perfect example of sort of these meta narratives that all inform each other if you're paying attention. Something else to consider, because for our participants, because a big need within the group is just looking at story building and world building here. If you also want to touch on world building as well, I think it's all very relevant.
Yeah, world building, that's another thing that I've been thinking about a lot this week, going through like at Universal and Disneyland, that I feel like when I was a kid, these theme park rides were generally did not have a story. They might have had a theme, but you were not going on like a journey. Whereas I don't think I did a single thing this week that didn't have a narrative arc, like not a one, which was cool. And also it's like, I mean, maybe, I don't know, that I'm an adult, I like am more aware of this, but I think it added to it. And then with world building, I think so much of it is in the things that you don't tell people, that you are implying that you are not telling. So gosh, there's a couple of sort of stories that I have about this. One was being when I was a concept artist in video games in my early career, I put like a second moon in a painting. And the design director being like, well, why is there a second moon there? And I was like, I don't know, like it looks cool. And then being like, no, like it can't just be because it looks cool. Like if you're proposing like something to do with the world, like that's fine, but it has to be that. There has to be a reason for everything. And the same in like Monument Valley has an entire universe and story. Every character is named. Like there's a lot of lore behind it that you would never know playing those games, but you would know because it informs the decisions of how those worlds are built. So even if you don't necessarily know the specific rules, like you're a smart player, you will know that there are rules that the world is playing by. And it does make a difference. Like you don't have to tell people like the rules are that like this world only has women, but like they might figure it out. And for you know, what I was talking about with the garage, the same sort of thing where it's like, we didn't get into the trash portal. We didn't explain the trash portal. We didn't explain the history of it. We didn't explain why it was there. We didn't explain anything. We just did that, like it's there. And you can extrapolate that there's a lot going on behind that. And just having those sorts of things, like you don't have to build your world out to the degree that you think. You might need to build it out in terms of like the story of it and being able to articulate that at least to yourself, but you do not need to literally build the whole thing. There's a lot that you can imply and people will get the same value from it in terms of their immersion and their experience.
Yeah, I think that that is absolutely crucial. I love the trash portal as the example. Why Forbes call it out. They're like, great giant machine, also trash portal.
Yeah.
That machine, it's really neat now to know you worked on that because it was the first Meow Wolf experience I had when it was installed at LeapCon in 2019.
Oh, really?
Yes, because I was at LeapCon speaking and I had like a second to pop out and check it out because the line was so long. LeapCon was a conference that happened one time. It was so sensational. It happened in Los Angeles through a company called Magic Leap, if anyone's familiar with that. They're based in Florida in the US. Magic Leap created one of the most powerful headsets to date at the time for AR. I actually have one. If it wasn't buried in my closet, I would go grab it. But they created this incredible AR headset. And then I would say truly Snapchat took it to the next level. Not the same one, but in terms of AR headsets. But Magic Leap wanted to celebrate this huge development that took almost a decade to make, let alone decades more of research. And they created this huge multi-day conference, and Meow Wolf partnered with them with the headset specifically that Lauren had in those images, and they created this huge mech, to her point. It was just an incredible experience to see how do you pull this technology in a narrative way. So yeah, if I highly recommend Meow Wolf, highly recommend these as all use cases for ways in which to engage and at times gamify mixed reality or give purpose to a place. And I know that I DM'd privately, I mentioned it to Antoine, but I think that this feels very similar to your project, specifically in terms of ghosts within certain physical locations. He's doing an AR installation experience, and I kind of, Antoine, not to put you on the spot, but kind of want you to bring it up just a little bit because I think that there's such an overlap for making a case for world building in relation to your narrative. Before we all have to hop, I know we're almost at time. Well, we are at time.
Yeah, it's true. It's we're doing like location-based installations, and I've been through a lot of what you described. I guess you know, talking about, I mean, everything, and I'm also still very unsure about the quality of the AR experiences in general. You know, and the headsets and everything. I think it's also a big promise and a lot of time very disappointing for the audience, and so that's something we really should have in mind. And yeah, but thanks for sharing your experience.
I would love to add to that the sort of disappointment, because I agree. And one of the other things that I feel like I've learned this week looking at escape rooms and immersive theater is one of the problems that I think our industry has of technologists sort of who now have this like immersion device is that we treat it as the be all end all of the experience. And then if you look at immersive theater and the way that they integrate technology experiences, it is like a beat in the play. And it can be the crescendo, it can be the point where like the big aha. But if it's the only thing that you have and you're not considering the buildup and the lights and the audio and like who are you interacting with and what is the space, which like, you know, that's the thing that you can do if you have a very scripted thing and you have control of the space. It's harder to do when you're thinking about this as like, what are the experiences that people are going to have at home with these devices? But even, you know, when we're working on Monument Valley too, giving people the direction of like, hey, like play this with a headset, or sorry, play this with headphones, like try and pull yourself into the space more. That you need to consider the context of the things that you're using, because I think that's another, we treat it super agnostically to its space, and it's not, like nothing is agnostic to the space that it's in, even if we don't have the ability to control it.
Yeah, thank you for these points. And any other just closing notes as I'm checking the time quickly? And thank you for coming on a little bit later, Lauren.
Sorry, what?
Thank you for coming on a little later.
Oh, yeah, no worries. I'm like super down to like meet and talk with people. So hit me up on the internet. LinkedIn is generally going to be the best place to message me. I don't check my social media too much. So yeah, shoot me a message there, or Derek has my my email address, which you're welcome to give to anybody who has any specific questions. So yeah, no, it was great talking with you guys. I can't wait to see the work that you make.
Thank you so much for this, and thank you everyone. This was awesome. Day 3, awesome talk. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Bye bye. Thank
Bye.
you.